वेरी गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। कैसे सब लोग? प्रेरणा कोचर, गुड इवनिंग, वेरी गुड इवनिंग बेटा। द द टॉपिक इज डिमांड एंड रिकवरी। ठीक है। सो मेनली वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस सेक्शन 73 to 84 and rule 142 to 161. It contains the various provision. We will discuss one by one. The first important is determination of the tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, wrongly availed, ITC or wrongly availed, or ITC wrongly utilized. You remember that in the sections assessment chapter, we have discussed this thing 73 and 74. What is the difference between 73 and 74? Very good evening, Viraj, Sailesh, Mansa, Kirti, and everyone. 73 and 74. The difference was fraud, willful misstatement. In the 73, the intention is not incorrect, not malified, not fraud. But in the 74, the intention was of the fraud, willful misstatement. Accordingly, the quantum of the penalty would be higher in the 74 compared to 73. Also, the time period of determining the liability would be higher in the section 74. Let's discuss one by one. 73. See, the mistake are 5. Mistakes are 5 only. Means 5 means tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed, or ITC wrongly utilized. These are the 5 mistakes. It would remain same. Only point that intention. So 73(1). It says that in case where the non-payment, short payment, these 5 things is on account of the reason other than fraud, etc., then proper officer shall issue the notice on the person chargeable such tax, requiring him to show cause why he should not pay the amount specified in the notice. तो पहला क्या हो गया? ये शो कॉज नोटिस इशू करेगा। ठीक है। Then proper officer, before serving the such so cause notice, communicate the details of tax, interest and penalty. So cause notice would specify the amount of the tax along with the interest under section 50. Okay. And the penalty. Now that what is the time limit to issue the so cause notice? In 73 subsection 10, there is a time limit to issue the order. There is a time limit to issue the order, which is 3 years from the due date of annual return. Then 73 subsection 10, which talks about time limit to issue the order, same time 73(234) is saying that you will issue the notice minus 3 months. It means we can say the time limit to issue the notice would be 2 year 9 months. एक बात ध्यान रखना, in the GST, the time limit would be applicable for notice as well as for order. There is last date to issue the notice and there is a last date to issue the order. Assessing officer ensure that the notice or order has been issued within the time limit. When a notice has been issued for any period, chargeable with the tax if such person commits such default in some other period also, then notice की जगह क्या हो जाएगा, सिर्फ एक statement सर्व करेंगे तो that would be okay. Where the notice has been issued for any period on a person chargeable with tax if such person commits such default in some other period also, instead of issuing the detailed notice, a mere statement containing the detail of tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed, utilized can be issued. So एक तो अपने नोटिस की बात हुई और साथ में हमने क्या कहा, अगर नोटिस इश्यू किया गया और सेम डिफॉल्ट किसी अदर पीरियड में है तो सिर्फ स्टेटमेंट इश्यू करने से काम हो जाएगा. Service of such statement shall be deemed to be the service of the notice, subject to the condition that the ground relied upon for such tax period as covered in the statement are same as mentioned in the earlier notice. ठीक है. So payment of tax before issuance of the so-called notice. So now we will understand that three stages. This is so-called notice. If the payment has been made prior to the so-called notice, what would be the penalty? If the payment is made after so-called notice but before order, what is the quantification? And if the payment is made after order. So we will discuss in the 73, also in the 74. The payment is made prior to SCN, after SCN but prior to order, and after order. Then if person voluntarily come forward to pay the tax along with interest before issuance of the so-called notice or statement as the case may be, then there is no penalty. In the 73, but when we will discuss in the 74, you will find 15% of the penalty. In such case, he has to pay the amount of the tax along with interest. Then either on the basis of own ascertainment of the tax or the tax as communicated by the proper officer. Further, he need to inform the proper officer. The information would goes in the DRC 03. It is only for your information. I am telling you the phone number. It is not required from the examination point of view. आप इसको practically correlate कर पाओ. That's it. That is only the purpose to discuss the form number with you. Officer shall issue the acknowledgement in the DRC 04. If the person has made the partial payment of the amount communicated to him or desire to file any submission against the proposed liability, he may make such submission in the prescribed form. Such voluntary payment can be made even if the mistake pointed out by the department before issuance of the so-called notice. When such voluntary payment is made, the department shall not serve any SCN, the matter closed at this stage itself, and important part is no penalty. Option of paying tax interest before issuance of the so-called notice as to avoid the SCN and penalty leviable thereon. We have discussed that we are reading the provision of section 73. Now, if the payment is made after issuance of the so-called notice, then payment of tax along with the interest and no penalty. No penalty provided the payment has been made within 30 days from the SCN. So, before so-called notice or after so-called notice, but within 30 days, then no penalty. And then we will talk about adjudication order, where an SCN is issued to a person chargeable with tax. He may furnish the representation to the proper officer in his defense if he is of the view that he is not liable to pay the whole or part of the amount mentioned in the SCN. Officer, after considering the representation made, pass an order determining the amount of the tax, interest, penalty, etc. Quantum of the penalty would be then 10% of the tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. Quantum of the penalty will remain same whether the tax along with interest is paid within 30 days of order या 30 days के बाद करो या 30 days के पहले करो. In both the cases, quantum of the penalty would be same. After order, the penalty would be 10% or 10,000, whichever is higher. Now let's read the language. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 6 or 8 or 9, penalty under section 9 shall be payable where the amount of the self-assessed tax or any amount collected as tax has not been paid within the period of 30 days from the due date of the payment of such tax. 73(11), it is clear that non-payment of self-assessed tax or amount collected as representing the tax has been treated differently than the non-short payment as referred in 73(1), where the penalty can be reduced or waived. However, in case of the non-payment of self-assessed within 30 days, the penalty is mandatory and there is no waiver. Allow me only 1 minute. My tablet ले रहा हूं. Just allow me 1 minute. बात क्लियर है ना? आई होप इट इज क्लियर टिल नाउ. करेक्ट? एनी कमेंट, एनी क्वेश्चन? लेट मी नो. एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. ठीक है, ठीक है. अब हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. Clarification on the levy of the penalty in case of the delayed filing of the return. Now, tax not paid or short paid. Whether question was the GSTR 3B has been filed after the due date of filing of returns. क्या मतलब हुआ इसका? Suppose the due date of the GSTR 3B for the month of January was, let's say, 20th Feb, assuming it is monthly taxpayer. But he has not filed the return on 20th Feb. Let's say he has filed the return on 25th Feb or March or April, whenever. Now, there is a delay in payment of the tax. तो क्वेश्चन ये था कि क्या 73 की पेनल्टी लगाई जा सकती है? वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. They are saying the provision of 73(11) can be invoked only when the provision of 73 are invoked. मतलब, and the provision or the 73 are generally not invoked in case of the delayed filing of the return in the 3B, because applicable tax along with interest and late fees has already been paid by the taxpayer. Tax along with interest has already been discharged. तो अगर उसने टैक्स इंटरेस्ट के साथ पे कर दिया है, देन दे आर सेइंग 73 कैन नॉट बी अप्लाइड इन दिस केस. लेकिन साथ में उन्होंने इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर देते हुए एक बात और कही कि एक जनरल पेनल्टी अंडर सेक्शन 125 कैन बी इम्पोज्ड. 125 की पेनल्टी कितनी है? 125 की पेनल्टी 25,000 CGST प्लस 25,000 SGST. टोटल कितनी है? 50,000 है. आई होप इट इज क्लियर. नाउ that was this clarification. Then time limit to issue the order, we have already discussed 7310. Now we are moving 74. The 74 reason are same. Tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. याद रखना यहां पे वर्ड और है. और जब इंटरेस्ट की बात करते हैं 50 सबसेक्शन 3, व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द इंटरेस्ट, देयर इज ए अवेल्ड एंड यूटिलाइज्ड. And on account of fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact. Fraud, willful misstatement और suppression of the fact. 3 वर्ड आप याद करेंगे. Requesting everyone, please remember these 3 words: fraud, willful misstatement, and suppression of the fact. Then the notice will be issued. Again, if the notice is issued for the same period, then they can cover one period, then they can cover another period on the same ground by the statement. Everything remains same, only the quantification of the penalty is different. What is the quantification? Before issuance of the so-called notice, the penalty would be 15%. After notice, before order, the penalty would be 25%. After order, the penalty would be 50%. Penalty would always be the tax amount. Penalty किसका होता है? Tax amount का होता है. Penalty value का नहीं होता. Penalty would never be the value. Let's say the tax is the value is 1 lakh rupees and let's say the tax is 5%. ठीक है? तो 5,000 इसके ऊपर टैक्स हुआ, तो penalty would be tax component. Now, what is the time limit to issue the notice? Again, the time limit to issue the order is 5 years from due date of annual return or within 5 years from the date of erroneous refund. So one thing is, again, I am going back to the 73. 73 में भी 3 साल का टाइम था, 3 साल from the due date of annual return or from the date of refund. Here also 5 years from the due date of annual return or from the date annual return or from the date of refund. क्या चीज के बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग? ये बात कर रहे हैं हम ऑर्डर की. ऑर्डर एंड देन माइनस 6 month, it will be the 4 years 6 month time limit to issue the notice under section 74. Kindly give me the answer. Kindly give me the answer. What is the time limit to issue the notice under section 73? Question number 1. Question number 2. What is the time limit to issue the order under section 74 for annual return? For एनुअल रिटर्न ऑफ 22-23 जिसकी ड्यू डेट क्या है? फॉर द सॉरी एक सेकेंड, फॉर द ईयर 22-23 आपको मुझे क्या बताना है? 22-23 के लिए डिपार्टमेंट नोटिस कब तक इश्यू कर सकते हैं अंडर सेक्शन 73 एंड डिपार्टमेंट ऑर्डर कब तक इश्यू कर सकते हैं अंडर सेक्शन 74? 2 क्वेश्चन है. कौन से साल की बात कर रहा हूं? फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22-23. Or what is the due date of annual return? The due date of annual return is 31st December 2023. तो आप मुझे आंसर करेंगे क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 का क्या आंसर होगा एंड आप मुझे बताएंगे क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 का आंसर क्या होगा. Please tell me both the answer for the financial year 22-23. What is the last day to issue the notice under section 73? And what is the last day to issue the order under section 74 I am talking about? Give me the reply in the chat. Exact date, let's say 30th September, 30th October, 30th November 2024. क्या डेट आएगी? So I know the time limit which we have discussed, but now you have to tell me, calculate and tell me the exact date, month and year. So, you are saying that 30th September 2026 and 31st December 2028. The two answers are coming. And 30th June 2028, 31st December. Fine. See the due date of section 73 and section 74. What is the last date to issue the order? Here is 3 years and here 5 years. Correct. So if the due date is 31st December 2023, add 3 years. So what would be the answer? 31st December 2026. And in case of the 74, 31st December 2028. Okay. What is the last date to issue the notice? Here I need to reduce minus 3 months and here I need to reduce minus 6 months. So I can say the answer would be 30th September 2026 and in this case 30th June 2028. I hope it is clear. My question number 1 was this and my question number 2 was this. All the participant has given the right answer except 1 or 2. Crystal clear? एकदम क्लियर है? कोई डाउट? टाइम लिमिट टू इश्यू द नोटिस, टाइम लिमिट टू इश्यू द ऑर्डर. अभी पेनल्टी की बात करेंगे हम लोग. 2 मिनट रुकिए. We'll talk about the penalty once again. But why I am saying the different date? Why you are saying 1st October? Why you are saying 1st July? It is not number of the days. It is exactly month. That is the last date to issue the order. ठीक है. Again, if the tax has been paid before the so cause notice, the penalty amount would be 15%. अगर नोटिस इश्यू के पहले मैं टैक्स का पेमेंट कर देता हूं तो मुझे कितना कितना पेनल्टी देना पड़ेगा? 15%. और 15% किसका है? टैक्स का. नेवर फॉरगॉट दैट पेनल्टीज ऑफ द टैक्स इज नॉट द वैल्यू. पेनल्टी किसका है? टैक्स का है, वैल्यू का नहीं है. बिफोर द इश्यूएंस ऑफ द नोटिस. ठीक है, मैं बाकी डिटेल नहीं रीड कर रहा हूं बिकॉज इट इज यू कैन रीड. इट इज सेम फॉर सेक्शन 73 and section 74. So I am reading only the differential part with all of you. Only the differential part with all of you. Then if the payment of the tax, if the payment of the tax is after issuance of the notice, then it says that 25% would be the penalty. याद रखना, ये जरूर लिखना. Please note with. So what is the point? What is the problem? So cause notice has to be issued like in our example 30th June 2028, right? And order has to be issued 31st December 2028. कितना डिफरेंस है? कितना डिफरेंस है? नंबर ऑफ मंथ में कितना डिफरेंस है? आई कैन से द आंसर इज 6 मंथ. यहां पर 6 मंथ है नहीं. द पेनल्टी वुड बी 25% इफ द पेमेंट इज मेड विद इन 30 days फ्रॉम द सो कोज नोटिस. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? अगर आप 30 days में नहीं करते तो प्रोबेबली द डिपार्टमेंट विल नॉट एक्सेप्ट द पेनल्टी ऑफ 25%. But be careful while replying the answer in the exam. The time gap between the notice and the order is 3 months in 73, 6 months in 74. Maximum gap है ये. इससे कम भी हो सकता है. Let's say on 30th June 28 is the last day to issue the notice. If he issue the order on let's say 31st July 2028, is there any harm? No, there is no problem. He can issue the notice definitely, and then he can issue the order. But ये तो लास्ट डेट बताया ऑर्डर का, राइट? नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज, तो ये जो टाइम है जहां पर 25% पेनल्टी का क्वांटिफिकेशन है, ये कब एप्लीकेबल होगा? अगर नोटिस इश्यू करने की 30 दिन के अंदर पेमेंट कर देते हैं तो। In other words, where such person pays the tax demand along with interest payable under section 50, the penalty equal to the 25% of the tax within 30 days, all proceeding deemed to be concluded. Then adjudication order. Adjudication order has to be issued. The time limit we have discussed. The officer, after considering the representation, if any, pass an order determining the amount of tax, interest and penalty. Where any person served with adjudication order pay the tax along with interest and penalty. Penalty kitna? 50% of the tax, and within how many days? 30 days again. All proceeding shall be deemed to be concluded. All proceedings shall be deemed to be concluded. So what is the time limit to issue the order? We have discussed 5 years from the due date of annual return, or in case of the refund from the date of the receipt of the refund. Section 44, which talks about annual return, stipulate the annual return for the financial year is to be filed 31st December following the end of the financial year. ठीक है. Now some important point for the purpose of 73 and 74. All proceeding in respect of said notice. So we are reading this provision once again. We are seeing now, if you pay the tax along with this penalty within 30 days, then all proceeding in respect of the said notice shall be deemed to be concluded. So they have explained the word, what is the meaning of all proceeding in respect of said notice. What is the meaning? They are saying for the purpose of section 73 and for the purpose of section 74, all the proceeding in respect of the said notice shall not include. क्या चीज इंक्लूड नहीं करेगा? 132 का. What is section 132? Can anybody tell me what is the section 132? Section 132 is talking about offenses wherein the imprisonment का provision is there. Correct? 132A, B, C, D. Then we have discussed something, clause 1, clause 2. In that case, if the amount is exceeding such certain limit, then it can be directly arrested. If the amount is below that limit, then person can be imprisonment. Now the second is, in relation to the prosecution, the person can be prosecuted under GST law even if no further demand can be raised for the tax, interest or penalty. Prosecution in the criminal court is independent of and can be in addition to the penalty imposed under GST law. तो 132 का जो proceeding है, that would even go beyond also. मतलब इसमें ये इंक्लूड नहीं करता. डीम टू बी कंक्लूडेड में 132 कंक्लूड नहीं है. इसका मतलब है 132 अलग से भी चल सकता है पैरेलली. Then clause 2 says where the notice under the same proceeding is issued to the main person liable to pay the tax and some other person, and such proceeding against the main person have been concluded under section 73, 74, the proceeding against all the person liable to pay the penalty under 122 and 125 are deemed to be concluded. एक ही मैटर है. Now try to understand. This is very important and very interesting also. Let's see the example also. Sometime if a notice is issued to the company, ठीक है, notice may also be issued to the executive director or employee, transporter, etc. for same course of action. ठीक है, these are termed as co-noticing. While company is the main noticee, conclusion of the proceeding against the main noticee would be deemed to be conclusion of the proceeding against co-noticee also, and the entire case will stand closed. यहां पर ध्यान रखना, Here they are covered section 122 and section 125. Earlier there was 129 and 130 was also being included. 129 and 130 क्या? In case you are moving the goods, then section 68 talks about certain documentation, certain movement of the, in case of the movement of the goods in transit, you have to carry some document, e-way bill, delivery challan, tax invoice, etc. If it is not being carried, then proper officer may detain the goods, may detain the conveyance, and the penalty can be imposed of 129. अगर उस गुड्स के लिए, सेम गुड्स के लिए, let's say there was a penalty of 73-74 against the company. Now on the same goods, penalty is being imposed under section 129. अगर मेन नोटिस ने 73 की पेनल्टी पे कर दी है, तो क्या ये 129 की पेनल्टी विल बी डीम्ड टू बी कंक्लूडेड? आंसर इज नो. After this amendment, there was an amendment which we will discuss in the penalty chapter. After this amendment, I can say the 129 has been excluded from the deeming fiction. क्या मतलब हुआ इस बात का? कि अगर मेन नोटिस उस गुड्स के रिगार्ड में जिसमें 73-74 का पेनल्टी वो पे कर भी देता है, तो बाकी जो अदर पेनल्टी है वो पैरेलली रन हो सकती है, एक्सेप्ट 122 एंड 125. If tax not paid within 30 days, the penalty would be still same. मतलब see, they may demand, but law is talking about within 30 days. नहीं कीर्ति, अगर मैं 30 डेज में पेमेंट नहीं करता हूं पेनल्टी 25% वाला, क्या पेनल्टी 50% की होगी? देखो, इट इज नॉट रिटन इन द लॉ. They are saying 25% would be within 30 days and 50% would be from the order within 30 days. Now it means जो 50% वाला applicability है वो order के बाद में है, not before order. And here they are saying till the 30 days. So there may be the gap. There may be the gap. In my view, if there is a gap, then the beneficiary to the taxpayer, which is 25%, will be prevail. तो मेरे हिसाब से पेनल्टी का क्वांटिफिकेशन 25% ही रहेगा. बट एग्जाम में जब आप लिखो तो आप ये 30 डेज वाला क्लॉज जरूर लिखना, भूल मत जाना. माइट बी यू कैन राइट, सपोज यू मे राइट कि इफ द टैक्स along with interest and 25% penalty has been paid after the notice but before order. You might be wrong because it is not after notice before order. No, after notice within 30 days from the notice. So that is the reason why I have highlighted this point. Is it clear now? Prerna and Kirti, two participants has asked the question. Prerna, काफी दिन बाद आ रहे हो, I think. मैं अगर गलत नहीं हूं तो you are not coming regularly. Now this is also very interesting. The suppression का मतलब क्या है? Fraud, willful misstatement and suppression of the fact. What is the meaning of suppression? Suppression means non-declaration of the fact or information which a taxable person is required to declare in the return. Non-declaration which a taxable person is required to declare in the return, statement or report or any other document furnished under this act or the rules made thereunder, or failure to furnish any information on being asked for in writing by the proper officer. Therefore, the definition of the suppression is very clear. Only if information that was required to be disclosed But that would and is not disclosed. That would amount to the suppression. It is not the duty of the taxable person to disclose each material fact to the department if it is not required or if it is not asked. Let's read the comparison. Normal case and fraud case. Normal case and fraud case. Tax along with interest paid before notice, no penalty, and here 15% penalty. Tax along with interest paid within 30 days from notice, again no penalty, here 25% penalty. 30 days, within 30 days from the order, 10% or 10,000 whichever is higher, and 50% of the tax. All proceeding deemed to be concluded. ठीक है. Then if tax paid after 30 days, here the quantum would be 100% of the tax amount, and here the 10% or 10,000 whichever is higher. Same. अब देखो, एक गैप में क्लैरिटी नहीं थी. किस गैप में? इस गैप में. आफ्टर 30 डेज, विद इन की जगह अगर मैं आफ्टर 30 डेज बिफोर ऑर्डर करता हूं, बट आफ्टर 30 डेज नोटिस, will the penalty would be 25%? In my view, yes, because the 50% would be applicable from after 30 days from the order. So ऑर्डर के भी 30 दिन के बाद में 50% का क्वांटिफिकेशन आएगा. इसका मतलब इसके पहले 25% रहेगा. लेकिन एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपको हमेशा याद रखना कि ये एग्जाम लॉ में किसकी बात करता है? विद इन 30 डेज की बात करता है. देन अगर मैं ऑर्डर के भी 30 दिन में पेमेंट नहीं करता हूं, इफ आई विल नॉट मेक द पेमेंट विद इन 30 डेज फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ द ऑर्डर ऑल्सो, देन टैक्स अलॉन्ग विद इंटरेस्ट पेड आफ्टर 30 डेज, 10% or 10,000 whichever is higher, and 100% of the tax amount in case of 74. We have discussed in length regarding 73, 74. Let's some more comparison chart is there. Let's discuss. Normal case में टाइम लिमिट टू इश्यू द नोटिस कितना होता है? आप बताइए. नॉर्मल केस में टाइम लिमिट टू इश्यू द नोटिस कितना होता है? व्हाट इज द टाइम लिमिट टू इश्यू द नोटिस इन द नॉर्मल केस? What is the time limit to issue the notice in the normal case? Revision है. It's simple revision. We have discussed. Two year, 9 month. 2 year, 9 month. What is the time limit to issue the so-called notice in case of section 74? Correct. 4 year, 6 month. अगर 74 की बात करते हैं तो टाइम लिमिट क्या है? 4 year, 6 month. Now tell me the time limit to issue the order in 73 as well as in 74. Time limit to issue the order in 73 as well as 74. दोनों का टाइम लिमिट बताइए कि ऑर्डर का टाइम लिमिट क्या है? What is the time limit to issue the order for 73 as well as 74? What is the time limit to issue the order for 73 normal case, for 74 that is fraud case? Time limit to issue the order. The answer is absolutely correct, Viraj. The answer is 3 years in case of 73 and 5 years in case of 74. एक बात और बताइए, let me please tell me one more thing, that 3 year, 5 year, 2 year, 2 year, 9 month, 4 year, 6 month would be counted from which date? जो भी ये टाइम पीरियड का हम डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं, दैट वुड बी स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम विच डेट? सो 3 year फ्रॉम, 5 year फ्रॉम विच डेट इट वुड बी काउंटेड? दैट इज माई क्वेश्चन. आप एग्जाम में क्या लिख कर आएंगे? 3 years, 5 year, 4 year, 6 month, 2 year, 9 month, फ्रॉम what you will write? विल इट ऑलवेज बी एनुअल रिटर्न? क्या ये हमेशा एनुअल रिटर्न होगा? विल इट ऑलवेज बी ड्यू डेट ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न? विल इट ऑलवेज बी ड्यू डेट ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न? यस. ड्यू डेट ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न, और ड्यू डेट ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न, और ड्यू डेट ऑफ एनुअल रिटर्न, और फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ इरोनियस रिफंड. एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. बहुत बढ़िया. सो any amount collected as tax but not paid, no time limit, but within 1 year from the date of issuance of the notice. But this point we will discuss at a later stage, not now. हम पढ़ेंगे बाद में. किसकी बात करें? टाइम लिमिट टू इशू द ऑर्डर एंड टाइम फॉर इश्यूएंस ऑफ द नोटिस. नोटिस के लिए कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है, बट ऑर्डर के लिए 1 year का टाइम लिमिट है. ये कहां लिखा हुआ है? सब्सिक्वेंटली वी विल डिस्कस. नॉन पेमेंट ऑफ सेल्फ असेस टैक्स. नॉन पेमेंट ऑफ सेल्फ असेस टैक्स, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? अगेन वी विल डिस्कस सेपरेटली कि जो सेल्फ असेस टैक्स होता है ना, जो सेल्फ असेस टैक्स होता है ना, उसकी रिकवरी के लिए कोई भी नोटिस इश्यू करने की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. इट कैन बी स्टार्टेड डायरेक्टली. सेल्फ असेस का मतलब, जैसे कोई भी एक एग्जांपल मैं बताता हूं जो किसने कवर भी किया सेक्शन 75 में. इफ आई हैव reported the liability in the GSTR1, let's say rupees 10 lakh rupees as tax liability. While filing the 3B, I have paid rupees 8 lakh. तो डिफरेंशियल जो शॉर्ट पेड है ना, ये माना जाएगा सेल्फ असेस टैक्स लाइबिलिटी है. इसकी रिकवरी करने के लिए कोई नोटिस की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. इट कैन बी डायरेक्टली रिकवर्ड विदाउट सेंडिंग एनी नोटिस. However, we will discuss subsequently in this chapter when we will reach to the section 75. There is a monetary time limit. Let's read. Board has assigned the officer mentioned in the table below the function as the proper officer in relation to issue the notice and order in 73 and 74 up to the prescribed monetary limit, including cess, not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, or ITC wrongly availed or utilized. क्या ऑर्डर है? अगर आप सुपरिटेंडेंट ऑफ टैक्स है, if it is superintendent of tax, then the time limit is monetary limit for CGST 10 lakh rupees and IGST 20 lakh rupees doubling. डिप्टी कमिश्नर और असिस्टेंट कमिश्नर है तो अबव 10 lakh बट नॉट एक्सीडिंग 1 crore. एंड एडिशनल और जॉइंट कमिश्नर है तो अबव 1 crore विदाउट एनी लिमिट. अपर लिमिट कुछ नहीं है. 1 crore के ऊपर अगर उनके मॉनिटरी लिमिट के 1 crore के ऊपर अगर कोई नोटिस है तो वो भेज सकते हैं. and obviously IGST would be doubled. ठीक है. Then the Central Tax Officer of the Audit Commissionerate and Director General of GST Intelligence, DGGST. See, very important, very very important. एक तो होता है जुरिस्डिक्शनल ऑफिस, एक तो होता है जुरिस्डिक्शनल ऑफिसर जिसकी जुरिस्डिक्शन डिफाइंड है, लाइक सुप्रिटेंडेंट, सीजीएसटी, एसजीएसटी, इन सबकी जुरिस्डिक्शन डिफाइंड है. एक होता है जिनको पैन इंडिया का जुरिस्डिक्शन दिया है जीएसटी में, वो कौन है? डीजीजीआई, डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ जीएसटी इंटेलिजेंस. Director General of GST Intelligence shall exercise the power only to issue so-called notice. And इनको पावर क्या है? पैन इंडिया का पावर है. जैसे उन्होंने एससीएन इश्यू किया, उसका एडजुडिकेशन का काम किसका है? कंपिटेंट सीजीएसटी ऑफिसर या एसजीएसटी ऑफिसर, जिसके जुरिस्डिक्शन में वो नोटिस ही फॉल करता है. In case SCN have been issued on similar issue to a notice and made answerable to different level of adjudicating authority within a commissionerate, such SCN should be adjudicated by adjudicating authority competent to decide the case involving the highest amount of central tax and or integrated tax. क्या मतलब है इस बात का? In case SCN is issued on the similar issue to the noticee and made answerable to the different level of adjudication authority. सेम इश्यू पर लेट्स से सुपरिटेंडेंट ने भी क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया, सेम इश्यू पर लेट्स से ऑडिट में भी क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया. इट कैन बी मल्टीपल एडजुडिकेटिंग ऑथोरिटी हैज आस्क्ड द क्वेश्चन विदिन ए कमिश्नरेट. पॉइंट टू बी नोटेड, कमिश्नरेट का मतलब क्या हुआ? सी, एक एडजुडिकेटिंग कमिश्नरेट होता है, ठीक है, एक ऑडिट कमिश्नरेट अलग होता है. इट मींस इफ द ऑडिट कमिश्नरेट हैज आस्क्ड द क्वेश्चन and your superintendent, it's a proper officer, has asked the question, two different commissionerate has asked the same question, then it is okay. They are saying in case SCN have been issued on the similar issue to a noticee and made answerable to the different level of adjudicating authority within a commissionerate, then such SCN should be adjudicated by the adjudicating authority competent to decide the case involving the highest amount of सेंट्रल टैक्स एंड और इंटीग्रेटेड टैक्स इंक्लूडिंग सेस. ये बात सर्कुलर नंबर 31 में क्लेरिफाई की थी उन्होंने. देन सेक्शन 75, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सेक्शन 75 क्या है? जनरल प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ द टैक्स. कंप्लीटली थ्योरी प्रोविजन, बट बी केयरफुल, इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एंड प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑल्सो. तो थ्योरी है लेकिन काफी प्रैक्टिकल इन पार्ट इन्वॉल्व है इसमें. तो वन बाय वन हम रीड करेंगे एंड विल ट्राई टू एनालाइज ऑल्सो. ठीक. जनरल प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ द टैक्स आर कंटेन्ड इन सेक्शन 75. दीज प्रोविजंस आर एप्लीकेबल इन केस ऑफ द डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ द टैक्स. अगेन सेम 5 थिंग्स. By reason of the fraud, willful misstatement or otherwise. This provision has been discussed are as follows. Period of the stay order to be excluded in computing the limitation period, where the service of the notice or issuance of the order is stay by an order of court or appellate tribunal, where the service of the notice or issuance of the order is stay by the court, appellate tribunal. तो क्या होगा? जितना स्टे किया है, जितना भी पीरियड ऑफ स्टे है, shall be excluded in computing the period of the notice and order as the case may be. यहां पे नोटिस और ऑर्डर कौन सी बात हो रही है? 73 या 74 के सबसेक्शन 10 की एंड सबसेक्शन 2 की. सबसेक्शन 2 एससीएन की बात करता है एंड सबसेक्शन 10 ऑर्डर की बात करता है, राइट? In case charges of the fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact are not established for a notice issued in the fraud case टैक्स टू बी डिटरमाइंड, डीमिंग द डिमांड नोटिस टू बी इशूड इन द नॉर्मल केस। इसके रिगार्ड में एक सर्कुलर भी है, वी विल डिस्कस वन सर्कुलर ऑल्सो इन द सेम पैटर्न। क्या इन द सेम पॉइंट, क्या पॉइंट है, लेट मी डिस्कस वंस अगेन। इन केस द चार्जेस ऑफ द फ्रॉड, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact are not established for a notice। एक नोटिस इश्यू किया 74 में, ठीक है, 74 के लिए क्या चीज मैंडेटरी है, फ्रॉड, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact, etc. These are important, correct? And suppose the charges, the fraud, willful misstatement are not able to decide it, तो क्या माना जाएगा, in then it will be deemed that if the notice was issued in 73। ये पॉइंट क्लियर है ना? Now, what was the circular we will discuss again, but let me clarify one thing here itself. Again, taking the same example 22-23. What is the last date to issue the notice for 22-23 in case of section 74? 74 के नोटिस में लास्ट डेट टू इश्यू द नोटिस इज 30th June 2028 and here 30th September 2026. First tell me, is it okay if the notice has been issued on 1st December 2026 for section 74? एक बात मुझे बताइए, अगर किसी ऑफिसर ने नोटिस इश्यू किया 74 का ऑन 1st December 26, इज इट ओके? टेल मी दैट इफ द नोटिस हैज बीन इश्यूड ऑन 1st December 26, इज इट ओके? एक बार बताएं मुझे कि नोटिस 1 दिसंबर को इश्यू किया, इज दैट ओके? Is it okay? Answer is yes, it is okay. Answer is yes, it is okay. What is the problem? The problem is, suppose in this notice, the fraud was not able to establish. So इस नोटिस में क्या हो, फ्रॉड का चार्ज है, विलफुल मिसस्टेटमेंट का चार्ज है, इट वाज नॉट एबल टू एस्टैब्लिश, देन क्या माना जाएगा, इट विल बी डीम्ड दैट इट इज ए नोटिस ऑफ 73। देन द इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन वाज अरोज, क्या ये 73 का वैलिड नोटिस होगा? क्या ये 73 का वैलिड नोटिस होगा? देन सर्कुलर हैज क्लैरिफाइड by deeming provision it will be converted to the 73 notice, but the time limit to issue the notice should be the time limit which is given in the 73। मतलब क्या है, अगर ये नोटिस जिसको डीमिंग प्रोविजन के कारण 73 का मान लिया है, अगर ये नोटिस जो 74 में इश्यू हुआ था बट इट वाज डिसाइडेड और इट वाज डीम्ड टू बी द 73 का नोटिस, but it has to be issued within the time limit of 73, not 74। so it means by deeming fiction, if it is converted into 73, तो ये 73 में सस्टेन नहीं करेगा, it will be the belated notice। is it clear? एक बार कंफर्म करना, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, छोटा पॉइंट है बट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, इसके रिगार्ड में सर्कुलर है, दैट वी विल डिस्कस इन सम टाइम। where any appellate authority or tribunal or the court conclude that the notice issued 74 is not sustainable for the reason that the charges of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression has not been established against the person to whom the notice was issued, the officer shall determine the tax payable as if the notice were issued in the 73। ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं। So Prerna, I was saying, let me repeat once again. See, the last date to issue the notice under section 74 is 30th June 2028. Okay. And last date to issue the notice under section 73 is 30th September 2026. So let's say the order has been issued on 1st December 2026 for section 74. So we can clearly say now it is perfectly okay, no problem, because this is the last date to issue the notice, but it has been issued well in advance. What is the reason for the 74? Fraud, willful misstatement, etc. And assume that the court is saying or tribunal authority is saying that there is no fraud. There is no fraud at all in this case. So 74 will not be sustainable. Correct now. So they are saying it will be deemed that it has been issued in 73. Now in that case, you have to check what is the last date to issue the notice for 73? It was this date. Whether notice has been issued within that time, answer is no. Then if it is the case, then it cannot be recoverable or it cannot be determined under section 73 as well. This order, this demand will be outdated. Content of the notice कभी different नहीं होता. See, what is the see? Very good point you are saying, but sir, content of the notice is different for 70. See, what is the notice? What the notice will be like? The notice will tell that you have taken the wrong ITC, you have taken the excess ITC, you have taken the refund wrongly, your tax collected but not paid. They will simply write due to the reason of the fraud, willful misstatement, or they will impose the penalty under 73. So they will not establish 74 itself in the notice. They will not establish 73 in the notice itself. They will simply say the notice has been issued in 73 or the notice has been issued in 74. That's it. Matter closed. Now that they will issue the order, again appeal will be filed. And in the appellate level, let's say first level of appeal is the commissioner appeal. Second level of appeal is the tribunal. In any court, in any tribunal, if it is proved that there is no fraud involved, then the order of 74, which was issued for 74 with the content of 74, it will be deemed that it has been issued in 73. तो क्या ऑटोमेटिकली वो डीमिंग फिक्शन मान लिया जाएगा? तो डिफरेंस क्या है भाई? जो रीजन है उसमें तो कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है ना. रीजन मतलब जो उसने एलिगेशन लगाया नोटिस में, लाइक आईटीसी नहीं लिया, आईटीसी गलत लिया है, या यूटिलाइज गलत किया है, या टैक्स नॉट पेड, शॉर्ट पेड, एटसेट्रा. एलिगेशन आर सेम, ओनली द इंटेंशन इज डिफरेंट. They are saying fraud, court is saying no fraud, then this notice will be deemed to be issued under 73. Mansa and Prerna, एक बार कंफर्म करना, is it clear? अच्छा, Prerna now clear. Okay. Mansa. ठीक है ना? एक बार आगे बढ़ते हैं. लेट्स मूव फर्दर. Adjudication order issued in persons of appellate authority, appellate tribunal, court direction be issued within 2 years. So they are saying जो भी order है, where any order is required to be issued in persons of the direction of the court, then it has to be issued within 2 years from the date of the communication of the order. कोई डायरेक्शन के कारण या कोई फर्दर जैसे कई बार केस क्या होता है, रिमांड बैक हो जाता है. रिमांड बैक का मतलब क्या होता है? व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द रिमांड बैक? रिमांड बैक मींस द केस इज बीन गिवन टू द authority once again, officer once again, by the court. It has been redirected. In that case, whatever the case may be, whenever the order is being required to be issued as per the direction of the court, then it has to be issued within 2 years. Then opportunity of the being heard. Opportunity being again, it is a principle of natural justice that opportunity of the hearing shall be granted where a request is received in writing from the person chargeable with the tax, interest or penalty, or where any adverse decision is contemplated against such person. Adjournment of hearing maximum 3 times. Adjournment of hearing maximum 3 times. सो एडजुडिकेशन ऑर्डर शुड बी स्पीकिंग ऑर्डर. शुड बी स्पीकिंग ऑर्डर मतलब अपने आप में क्लियर हो. इट द ऑर्डर सेल सेट आउट द रिलेवेंट फैक्ट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ हिज डिसीजन. मतलब ऑर्डर अपने आप में क्लियर पिक्चर हो. स्पीकिंग मतलब ऑर्डर तो बोलेगा नहीं ना. स्पीकिंग ऑर्डर का मतलब है कि द लैंग्वेज ऑफ द ऑर्डर, द how he has arrived at the fact that is there is a wrong availment of ITC, wrong utilization of ITC, why he is saying that tax not paid, short paid, etc. All the things has to be there clearly in the order. Tax interest penalty demanded in order not to exceed the amount specified in the notice. नोटिस अगर लेट से टैक्स लाइबिलिटी 1 लाख की है तो जो डिमांड ऑर्डर है वो ऑर्डर 1,20,000 का नहीं हो सकता. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द टैक्स. इंटरेस्ट ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल बी इंक्रीज्ड. It will be increased till the time the tax was not deposited. Further, they are saying no demand shall confirmed on the ground other than the ground specified in the notice. तो एडिशनल ग्राउंड ऐड नहीं कर सकते नोटिस में. नोटिस में जो ऐड किया उसके अलावा ऐड नहीं कर सकते while issuing the order. In case of the modification of taxes by the appellate authority, tribunal, etc., penalty and interest to be modified accordingly. So they are saying where the appellate authority, tribunal, or the court modify the amount of the tax determined by the proper officer, amount of the interest and penalty shall stand modified accordingly, taking into account the tax so modified. तो ऑटोमेटिकली मॉडिफाई हो जाएगा. कोई रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है मॉडिफाई करने की. इंक्रीज या डिक्रीज जो भी होता है अकॉर्डिंगली इंटरेस्ट एंड पेनल्टी वुड आल्सो बी कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंगली डिक्रीज्ड, इंक्रीज जो भी है. पेमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट मैंडेटरी इवन इफ नॉट स्पेसिफाइड इन द ऑर्डर. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि अगर ऑर्डर जो इश्यू किया उसमें इंटरेस्ट का रेफरेंस नहीं है, कोई कैलकुलेशन नहीं है, ठीक है, देन इट शैल बी पेबल वेदर और नॉट इट हैज बीन स्पेसिफाइड इन द ऑर्डर. Adjudication order to be passed mandatorily within the stipulated time period. 7510 कहता है कि it has to be issued within 3 year or within 5 year. जो भी हमने बात की थी 73 या 74 में, it has to be issued within the specified time period. Then, in case of the appeal filed by the department against prejudicial decision of the appellate authority, appellate tribunal or high court, period between the date of the decision of the higher authority and that of the lower authority be excluded. Important है, एक बार डिस्कस करते हैं. An issue on which the appellate authority or tribunal or the high court has given its direction which is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, मतलब गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट में, in some other proceeding and an appeal has been filed. अपीलेट अथॉरिटी की अपील किस में जाती है? ट्रिब्यूनल में. अपीलेट ट्रिब्यूनल की अपील कहां जाती है? हाई कोर्ट में. हाई कोर्ट की अपील कहां जाती है? सुप्रीम कोर्ट में. ठीक है, तो अपील हैज बीन फाइल्ड अगेंस्ट सच डिसीजन, ठीक है, विच इज पेंडिंग. द पीरियड स्पेंट बिटवीन द डेट ऑफ द डिसीजन ऑफ लोअर अथॉरिटी एंड दैट ऑफ द हायर अथॉरिटी, ठीक है, shall be excluded in computing the time limit. Time limit of what? Time limit for passing the adjudication order. 73 या 74 का जो order है, where proceeding are initiated by way of the notice under section 73 and 74. The time limit will be excluded. Amount of self-assessed tax or interest remained unpaid to be the recovered under section 79. Amount of the self-assessed tax or interest remaining unpaid to be recovered under section 79. ये बात हमने पढ़ी थी अभी थोड़ी देर पहले पढ़ी थी, सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट, सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स लाइबिलिटी, इट कैन नॉट, it can be recovered directly. It is not required to issue the notice, etc. Why notice not required? Because the language of 75 subsection 12, the language of 75 subsection 12 start with the word notwithstanding. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? ये ओवरराइडिंग प्रोविजन है, नॉटविथस्टैंडिंग एनीथिंग कंटेन्ड इन 73 और 74 where amount of the self-assessed tax in accordance with the return furnished under section 39 remain unpaid either wholly or partly, or amount of the interest payable on such tax remain unpaid, same shall be directly recovered under the provision of section 79. क्या है section 79? Again we will discuss. But the only point they are saying, अगर कोई सेल्फ असेस टैक्स है या सेल्फ असेस इंटरेस्ट है, उसकी रिकवरी के लिए कोई भी नोटिस इश्यू करने की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. क्यों रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है? बिकॉज 75 सबसेक्शन 12 इज नॉट विद स्टैंडिंग 73 एंड 74. अगर मुझे कोई अमाउंट रिकवर करना है, then I have to issue the notice for 73 and 74, but the language of 75 subsection 12, which is overriding language to 73 and 74, it means it will prevail over 73 74. It means the no requirement to follow the guideline given in the 73 74 when if it is self-assessed tax. So what is the self-assessed tax? We will discuss the meaning of self-assessed tax, but it simply says amount of the self-assessed tax in accordance with the return furnished under section 39. It means GSTR 3B remain unpaid. ऐसा तो हो ही नहीं सकता. It cannot be possible. So if you see the GSTR 3B, whatever the liability I have declared, and it cannot be unpaid. क्यों? ऐसा क्यों? Because the GSTR 3B cannot be furnished without payment of tax. Whatever the liability we have reported in the 3B, it cannot be furnished at all. रिटर्न फर्निश हो ही नहीं सकता जब तक मैं जितनी लाइबिलिटी डिक्लेयर की है GSTR 3B में, वो लाइबिलिटी मैं पे ना कर दूं. इट मीन्स द अमाउंट which is being declared in the 70 GSTR 3B, liability which is declared has to be paid. Without paid, you can't furnish the return at all. So therefore they have expand the meaning. किसका? सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स का. क्या एक्सपेंड किया? वी विल डिस्कस. The amount of self-assessed tax shall include the difference between 1 and 3B. GSTR 1 filed with 10 lakh rupees ka liability. GSTR 3B has filed and paid 8 lakh ka liability. In this 3B, I am not reported 10 lakh ka liability, because if I have reported rupees 10 lakh, then rupees 10 lakh has to be paid. It cannot be the declaration versus payment. It cannot be the difference. There cannot be any difference in the GSTR 3B with respect to the liability declared and liability paid. ये difference नहीं हो सकता. तो क्या कहा? GSTR 1 you have furnished rupees 10 lakh का liability, and 3B you have added 8 lakh and payment 8 lakh rupees. Then in that case the difference of the 2 lakh will be self-assessed tax and can be recovered without any notice. Let's read the language. The self-assessed tax shall include the tax payable in respect of the details of outward supply furnished under section 37, but not include in the return furnished under section 39. Scope of the term self-assessed tax is wide enough, and hence recovery can straightway be initiated by the proper officer for R1 and if not reflected in 3B. In other words, where the tax payable in respect of the details of the outward supply furnished in GSTR 1 has not been paid through 3B, either wholly or any amount of the interest payable on such tax remain unpaid. So that is same language. So I have explained in short. एक बार हाँ, this point is important. ऐसा पॉसिबल हो सकता है ना GSTR 1 एंड GSTR 3B में जेन्युइन मिस्टेक इट इज पॉसिबल ना? जेन्युइन मिस्टेक कैसे? लाइबिलिटी थी तो एक 8 lakh की, but wrongly I have reported 10 lakh while filing the GSTR1. And while making the, while entering the detail in the 3B, I have corrected and paid the actual tax liability. So this 10 lakh was never payable, but 8 lakh was payable. But मैंने क्या किया? R1 गलत फाइल कर दिया, तो मुझे मेरी प्रॉब्लम क्या है? मेरी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि तो डिपार्टमेंट तो रिकवरी स्टार्ट कर देगा. व्हाट टू डू इन दैट केस? Now they have issued the instruction number 1 in this case. What is the instruction number 1? अगर genuine reason है, genuine reason है मतलब typographical error, wrongly reported the details, or the GSTR1 in this. Why this is 10 lakh? Because in the last R1 I have reported 2 lakh का less liability. एक बार मैं वापस समझाता हूं. For the month of June, the liability in the GSTR1 was 6 lakh, was 5 lakh rupees, let's say. But actual liability was 7 lakh rupees. So I have increased the same in the GSTR 3B and paid the same in the GSTR 3B. Now, while filing the return of July, I have reported that 10 lakh rupees and I have paid the tax is covered 8 lakh for the current month for July itself, and the balance 2 lakh is pertaining to the previous period. Why I have added? Because it was not added in the June month. So if you see only for the, if you see only for the current month, July, then you might say the R1 ka liability is more than the liability paid in the GSTR 3B. You might say it is self-assessed tax liability and directly recoverable. But there could be the genuine reason also like this. So what is the solution? Instruction number 1 says, therefore, instruction number 1 by 2022 says that in case of the mismatch between R1 and 3B, the officer first send the communication to the registered person to pay the self-assessed tax short paid, not paid, or to explain the reason within a reasonable period in the communication. ठीक है? Recovery proceeding under section 79 will be initiated by the officer only when the said person either fail to reply or fail to make the payment. या तो वो रिप्लाई कर दे और अपनी मिस्टेक बता दे, या वो टैक्स का पेमेंट कर दे, और फेल टू एक्सप्लेन द रीजन फॉर द सच शॉर्ट पेड. अगर वो तीनों करने में फेल रहता है कौन? टैक्स पेयर. देन इट सेज दैट सेक्शन 79 विल बी इनिशिएटेड. व्हाट इज द 79? Recovery proceeding, which we will discuss in detail. So I hope it is clear now. And last point, and then we will take the break. In case of the penalty being imposed under 73, no other penalty to be imposed under the for the same act or omission. So what it says that if the same reason of the default, the penalty has been imposed in 73, 74, officer cannot impose the other section like 122, 125, 122, 125, 124, any other section cannot be imposed if the officer has imposed a penalty under 73 and 74. Where any penalty is imposed under 73 or 74, no penalty for the same act or omission shall be imposed on the same person under any other provision of this act. It is called as double jeopardy. It is called as double jeopardy. Now, this circular we will discuss after the break. We will take the break and will resume at 7:30. हम लोग रिज्यूम करते हैं 7:30 पर. So let's take a break and then we will complete the circular and rest all the things. सर अशोक जी आप स्टार्ट कर दीजिए ब्रेक. So the circular 185 is giving certain clarity regarding 73 and 74. What is the clarity? Let's discuss. In some of the cases where the SCN has been issued for 74, okay, but as per the direction of the authority, appellate tribunal, etc., the notice is not sustainable for the reason that charges of fraud, willful misstatement, etc., have not been established against the noticee, and direct the officer to redetermine the amount of the tax payable by the noticee, determining the notice have been issued in 73 in accordance with 75 subsection 2. What would be the time period for redetermining the tax interest penalty by the noticee in such case? Then what was the answer? The answer is 75(3) gives the time limit that it has to be established with the order has to be issued within 2 years. Accordingly, in cases where the direction is issued, the proper office is required to issue the order within a period of 2 years from the date of the communication. That is very simple. Now the next point, how the amount payable by the noticee, deeming the notice to have been issued in 73, shall be recomputed, redetermined by the proper officer as per 75(2). कैसे अमाउंट कैलकुलेट होगा? इसने बोला कि इन केस वेयर द अमाउंट ऑफ द टैक्स इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी payable by the noticee is required to be recomputed, the demand would have to be redetermined considering the provision of 73(2) and 73(10). What is the 73(2)? Time limit to issue the notice. What is the 73(10)? Time limit to issue the order. Therefore, in case where the proper officer has to redetermine, the same can be under section 73, same can be redetermined for so much amount of the tax short paid, not paid, or ITC wrongly availed or utilized in respect of SCN was issued within the time limit in 73(2). Very important. क्या मतलब हुआ कि जितना लाइबिलिटी उसने कैलकुलेट किया है नोटिस में टैक्स इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी, किसने? ऑफिसर ने, तो उस लाइबिलिटी जिसका नोटिस इश्यू किया है रिकंप्यूट करने के लिए सिर्फ उतना ही पोर्शन का रिकैलकुलेशन हो सकता है जिसके लिए वो नोटिस विद इन टाइम ऑफ 73 इश्यू किया है. लेट्स रीड अगेन. द सेम कैन बी रीडिटरमाइंड फॉर सो मच ऑफ द अमाउंट ऑफ द टैक्स short paid, not paid, ITC wrongly availed or utilized or erroneously refunded in respect of which SCN was issued within the time limit in 73(2), read with 73(10). Only the amount of the tax short paid, not paid, etc. Payable is payable in terms of 73 can be redetermined when SCN has been issued within 2 years 9 months. मेन पॉइंट क्या है? मेन पॉइंट सिर्फ इतना है कि आप 74 का जब ऑर्डर इश्यू किया और उसके डायरेक्शन में या 74 का नोटिस इश्यू किया और वो 74 की डिमांड सस्टेनेबल नहीं हो पा रही है, देन इट विल बी रिकैलकुलेटेड एज्यूमिंग इट हैज बीन इश्यूड इन 73. बट उसके लिए भी क्या है, जो नोटिस इश्यू किया है वो विद इन द टाइम लिमिट ऑफ 73 होना चाहिए, ना कि विद इन द टाइम लिमिट ऑफ 74. दैट्स द इंपॉर्टेंट. ठीक है, तो इतना मैं डिस्कशन को एक बार मैं छोड़ता हूं. सो दिस इज रिपीटेटिव पॉइंट विच आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड इन शॉर्ट. ठीक है. नाउ clarification on the various issue relating to applicability of demand and penalty provision under CGST Act in respect of the transaction involving fake invoicing. यहां पे भी काफी अच्छी क्लैरिटी दी है. नंबर ऑफ द केसेस हैज बीन नोटिस where the registered person are found to be involved in issuing the tax invoice, जिसको fake invoicing कहते हैं. Fake invoice का मतलब क्या हुआ? Invoice but without supply of the goods, in order to enable the recipient to avail and utilize the ITC fraudulently. In this regard, Circular 171 has been issued dated 6 July. Clarify the applicability of the demand and penalty provision. Now let's read. In case where a registered person A has issued the tax invoice to another registered person B without underlying the supply of goods or services or both. पहला क्वेश्चन क्या था? Whether such a transaction will be covered under supply. What is the answer? Says there has not only been tax invoice by A to B without supply of the goods. Therefore, such activity does not satisfy the criteria of the supply at all. So it is not the supply. Then next question, whether any demand and recovery can be made in respect of, can be made from A in respect of the said transaction under 7374, as there is no supply by A to B in respect of such tax invoice. Therefore, no tax liability arise against A. Therefore, no demand and recovery is required to be made against A under 73 or 74. Third, whether any penal action can be taken against registered person A in such case. Beside, no penal action under the provision of 73, 74 is required to be taken against A in respect of the said transaction. The registered person A, however, be liable for the penal provision under section 122 for issuing the tax invoice without supplying the goods or services. So when you read the penalty provision, you will find that 122(1) subclause 2 is talking about that tax invoice has been issued without the supply of the goods. So इन्होंने कहा कि ए के अगेंस्ट में 73, 74 तो लेवी नहीं कर सकते, बट यस इट कैन बी 122. A registered person A has issued the tax invoice B without underlying the supply of the goods. B, now in the question number 1 we have discussed for A. Now we are discussing for B. Without any underlying supply of goods or services or both, B avail the ITC on the basis of said tax invoice. ठीक है. B further issue the invoice along with underlying supply of the goods or services or both and utilize the ITC जो उसने avail किया था for payment of his tax liability. तो A ने क्या काम किया? A ने भी सेम उसने सप्लाई किया, एक टैक्स इनवॉइस इश्यू किया और दूसरा उसका लाइबिलिटी आईटीसी के साथ डिस्चार्ज किया. Whether B will be liable for the demand and recovery of the said ITC along with penal section under 73, 74. Let's see the answer. Now 73, 74 would be attracted. Why it would be attracted? Registered person B has availed and utilized the fraudulent ITC on the basis of tax invoice without receiving the goods or services, which is contravention of 16(2)(b). What is the 16(2)(b)? Section 16 subsection 2 talking about certain condition for taking the ITC. Like there has to be the tax invoice clause A. Clause B talking about goods or services has been actually received. So B is taking the ITC without actual receipt of goods or services, right? So therefore the question is, can B will be liable under 73, 74? The answer is because B has contravened the provision of 16(2)(b) for availing the ITC. भाई ITC लेने के लिए goods या service मेरे पास में आना चाहिए, received, it should be received. But B has not received, but that also without receiving the goods, he has taken the ITC. So now I can say ITC has been wrongly availed or utilized. क्या 73, 74 attract हो सकता है? Easily, sir, because it talks about the 5 mistakes: tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. So it said along with he shall be liable for the demand and recovery of the said ITC along with penal action under the 73-74. Not 73, only 74. Further, as per the provision of 75-13, if penal action for fraudulent availment or utilization of ITC is taken against B, no penalty for the same act for the said fraudulent availment or utilization of ITC can be imposed under any other provision of that. You can correlate. We have discussed the डबल जीओपार्डी कॉन्सेप्ट। एक एक्ट के लिए अगर सेम चीज के लिए एक्ट मतलब कोई सेम टास्क के लिए, सेम ओमिशन के लिए, सेम मिस्टेक के लिए 73-74 अगर लेवी कर चुके हैं तो इट कैन नॉट बी कवर्ड अंडर एनी अदर प्रोविजन। तो मतलब इस टास्क के लिए 122 कैन नॉट बी अप्लाइड। नाउ इन दिस केस, थर्ड केस, registered person A has issued the tax invoice to another registered person B. Without supplying the goods, B avail the ITC. He has passes the ITC to another registered person C. Now the question whether B would be liable for demand and recovery under the provision of 73-74. In this case, the ITC availed by B on the basis of tax invoice issued by A without receipt of the goods or services has been utilized by B for passing on the ITC by issuing the tax invoice to C. As there was no supply. क्यों नहीं है no supply? Question number 1 में we have discussed in detail कि that it not satisfied the condition of section 7. Therefore, only fake invoicing cannot be the supply. ठीक है. In this, so as there was no supply by B to C in respect of the said transaction, no tax was required to be paid by B in respect of the same. ITC availed by B in his electronic credit ledger on the basis of tax invoice issued by A without actual receipt of the goods is ineligible in terms of 16(2)(b, जो कि हम क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं। In this case, there was no supply in B to C in respect of said transaction. Also, no tax was required to be paid, and therefore, in these cases, no demand and recovery of either ITC wrongly availed or utilized by B in such case or tax liability in respect of the said outward transaction by B is required to be made. तो B to C की सप्लाई के लिए टैक्स लाइबल नहीं बनता था, बट उसने टैक्स पे किया, ITC यूटिलाइज की, इट कैन नॉट बी कवर इन 73-74. However, in such case, B shall be liable for the penal action both under section 122(1) का क्लॉज 2 एंड क्लॉज 7. क्या है क्लॉज 2 एंड क्लॉज 7? पहला, फॉर इश्यूइंग द इनवॉइस विदाउट सप्लाई द गुड्स, ठीक है, एंड फॉर टेकिंग और यूटिलाइजिंग द ITC विदाउट रिसीट ऑफ द गुड्स. सो दीज टू एक्शन कैन बी टेकन अगेंस्ट मिस्टर बी. आई होप इट इज क्लियर ना. एक बार समराइज करते, वट एवर वी हैव डिस्कस्ड, लेट मी समराइज. व्हाट इज द समरी? There are three parties, A, B, and C. A has issued the fake invoicing. B has taken the ITC and B has also issued the fake invoicing. मतलब without supply the goods. Question number 1 was whether A would be liable in 73-74. The answer was no. It cannot be liable because it is not the supply at all. So no question of tax liability. So what could be the penalty? The penalty could be under 122 subsection 1. Clause 2. It is no supply. Question number 2. Because B has taken the ITC without receipt of the goods, 16 subsection 2, talking about the 5-6 condition. So clause B says that the goods or services should be received. Correct. So because B has not received, but he has taken the ITC, so it will be violation of 16(2)(b. He would be liable to the penalty under section 74. Okay. Now third is when B has issued the invoice to C. Because it is no supply, so no demand can be raised on B for such fake invoicing. But no penalty, 122(1), 2 and 122(1)(7). These two penalty can be imposed on Mr. B. So that we have discussed. Any question, please ask. We have discussed two circular. I hope it is clear. एक बार कोई भी question है तो kindly ask. Or is it clear? एक बार confirm भी कर दीजिए because it is really crystal, really deeper circular. 171. ठीक है. Now let's move to the next part. The fundamental principle that have been outlined in the above scenario may be adopted to decide the nature of the demand and penal action. The actual action to be taken against the person will depend upon the specific fact and circumstances, which may involve the complex mixture of above scenario or even may not be covered by any of the above scenario. Any person who has retained the benefit of the transaction is specified in 122(1)(a). What is the 122(1)(a)? Try to understand. It is nothing but to cover the mastermind. They have inserted 122(1)(a). What is that? Let me give the brief background. A is a businessman. Take it. He has taken the GST registration in the name of his labor. He has taken PAN card, Aadhaar card, etc. And he has taken the registration in the labor Ramu, Shamu, etc. And now A is issuing the wrong tax invoice, fake invoicing, utilizing the ITC, availing the fraudulent refund, etc. in the GST registration of Ram, Sham, etc. Now what happened? The provision which is being covered for the penalty section 122(1), 122(2), something. So they are not capturing or they are not covering the mastermind of the person because he is unregistered. Mastermind would always be unregistered, right? Because he is just planner. He's just doing the entire game. But he has not taken the registration in his name. So when officer is going to recover the amount from Ram and Sham, they are not able to do anything because they are simply labor. They are worker. They cannot pay anything because they have not availed at all or they have not taken any benefit. Now they have inserted 122(1)(a). What is that? To cover the mastermind. If the transaction has been conducted as per the instance of any other person and was retained the benefit also. Two condition. Mastermind who has retained the benefit. Instruction जिसके कहने पर ये transaction हो रहा है और उस person ने retain किया benefit. Point to be noted. The 122(1)(a) is starting with any person. They are not talking about any taxable person. They are not talking about any registered person. Meaning thereby 122(1)(a) can be covered any person, even mastermind also. That was the main logic to bring 122(1)(a). Now 122(1)(a), one more point. In the section 83, attachment of the property, provisional attachment of the property, they have covered 122(1)(a). क्या मतलब हुआ? What is the combined reading? The penalty 122(1)(a) which is imposed on the mastermind now can be recovered by attaching the property including bank account. That was the serious implication of the 122(1)(a). So what is written? Let's read. Any person who retained the benefit of the transaction specified in 122(1)(a) and at whose instances such transactions are conducted shall also be liable for penal action under section 122(1)(a). Okay. It may be noted that in such case of wrongful fraudulent availment or utilization of ITC, or in case of issuance of invoice without supplying the goods or services or both, leading to wrongful availment or utilization of ITC, refund of tax, provision of section 132 may also be invoked, subject to the condition based on the fact and circumstances of each case. करेक्ट 132 में हमने डिस्कस किया था कितना क्वांटिफिकेशन है क्या क्या पेनल्टीज है दैट वी हैव डिस्कस्ड ऑलरेडी नाउ वी आर मूविंग टू सेक्शन 76 टैक्स कलेक्टेड बट नॉट डिपॉजिटेड टैक्स कलेक्टेड बट नॉट डिपॉजिटेड कितना टाइम पीरियड के अंदर लेट्स रीड amount provision of this section are based on the principle that nobody should be unjustly enriched in the name of the revenue. If any amount is collected in the name of tax, same must be deposited with the government. Such a situation may arise in case where the tax is collected on which tax is leviable, but such tax is not deposited within the government, then it can be covered in section 76. What is the 76 one? Amount representing tax collected from any person to be paid to the government, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any order, direction of appellate authority, appellate tribunal or the court, or in any other provision or the rules made thereunder, or any other law for the time being in force. Every person who has collected from any other person, क्या collect किया? Any amount which represent the tax and has not paid the said amount to the government shall forthwith pay the said amount to the government irrespective of whether the supplies in respect of which such amount was collected are taxable or not. Issuance of the so-called notice, where any amount is required to be paid to the government under subsection 1 and which has not been so paid, the proper officer may serve on the person liable to pay such amount a notice requiring him to suppose as to why the said amount should not be paid by him to the government and why the penalty equivalent to the amount specified in the notice should not be imposed on him under the provision of this act. तो एक notice issue करेंगे so cause notice in 76(2) में. Determination of amount due. The proper officer shall, after considering the representation, if any, made by the person on whom SCN is served, determine the amount due from such person and thereupon such person shall pay the amount so determined. Determination of amount due. ठीक है. Interest payable. The person who has collected any amount representing the tax but not deposited the same shall, in addition to paying the said amount, shall also be liable to pay the interest. Interest is payable under section 50. Interest is payable from the date the amount was collected to the date amount was deposited to the government. Opportunity of the being heard will always be given because it is the principle of natural justice. Now here see the time limit to issue the order within 1 year from the date of the issue of the notice. Correct? You can compare the same with the, we were reading the comparison of 73-74, wherein they were saying time limit for order is 1 year from the date of issue of the notice in case of section 76. Where the issuance of the order is stay by any order of court, tribunal, the period of the such stay shall be excluded in computing the period of 1 year. Order must be speaking order. We have discussed already. Adjustment of the amount payable under 76(1) and 76(3). The amount paid to the government under subsection 1 or subsection 3 shall be adjusted against the tax payable, if any, by the person in relation to supplies referred to in subsection 1. Where any surplus is left after the adjustment, amount of such surplus shall either be credited to the CWF Consumer Welfare Fund or refunded to the person who has borne the incidence of the taxes. The person who has borne the incidence of the tax may apply for the refund in accordance with the provision of section 54. यहां पर बात क्लियर है? एक बार मैं वापस रीड करूं। चलो मैं रीड कर लेता हूं। सी what we have discussed in section 76, let me go back. 76 we have talked about tax collected but not deposited. Tax collected but not deposited. Amount representing the tax collected from any person to be paid to the central government. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any order. जो भी अमाउंट रिप्रेजेंट करता है टैक्स के नाम पर, वो जो अमाउंट कलेक्ट किया है उसको पे करना पड़ेगा। सेकंड, उसको रिकवर करने के लिए नोटिस इश्यू करना पड़ेगा। देन दे हैव टू डिटरमाइन द अमाउंट ड्यू। इंटरेस्ट पेबल होगा किस तारीख से किस तारीख तक? द डेट व्हेन इट वाज कलेक्टेड एंड द डेट व्हेन इट हैज बीन डिपॉजिटेड, और इट विल बी कैलकुलेटेड, इट विल बी पेबल अंडर सेक्शन 50। अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑफ द बिंगर देना पड़ेगा। टाइम लिमिट फॉर इश्यूएंस ऑफ द ऑर्डर, हियर द टाइम लिमिट फॉर इश्यूएंस ऑफ द ऑर्डर इज 1 year फ्रॉम द नोटिस। क्या नोटिस के लिए कोई टाइम लिमिट है? नहीं। No time limit is being given for the notice, but yes, time limit has been given for the order 1 year from the date of issue of the notice. Order must be speaking order. Last, adjustment of the amount payable in 76(1) and 76(3). Section 76(9), 10 and 11. Amount paid to the government under subsection 1 or 3 shall be adjusted against the tax payable if any in relation to the supplies referred to in subsection 1. उसके बाद भी अगर कोई सरप्लस बच जाता है, या तो वो कंज्यूमर वेलफेयर फंड में चला जाएगा, या जिस पर्सन ने इंसिडेंट बॉन्ड किया टैक्स का, जिससे कलेक्ट किया, लेट्स से ए हैज कलेक्टेड द अमाउंट फ्रॉम एक्स वाई जेड, तो वो जो पर्सन है वो रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है, वो अनरजिस्टर्ड है। जिस पर्सन ने बियर किया है, बॉन्ड किया है टैक्स को, तो वो रिफंड एप्लीकेशन फाइल कर सकता है। बिकॉज you remember in the section 54 we have discussed 54 subsection 1 is starting with the word any person, करेक्ट? वहां पे वर्ड नहीं लिखा हुआ एनी टैक्सेबल पर्सन और एनी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन, नहीं, वहां पे वर्ड लिखा हुआ एनी पर्सन। इट मींस एनी पर्सन कैन अप्लाई फॉर द रिफंड। ठीक है, आई होप इट इज क्लियर नाउ। दिस पार्ट वी हैव आल्सो डिस्कस इन द रिफंड चैप्टर। मेरा क्वेश्चन यहां पे टैक्स रॉन्गफुली कलेक्टेड एंड पेड टू द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, क्या है? सेक्शन 77। सेक्शन 77 कहता है कि लेट्स से आई हैव ट्रीटेड द ट्रांजैक्शन एज इंट्रा स्टेट सप्लाई and I have paid the CGST and SGST, but subsequently it was held that it is an interstate supply, then I have to pay IGST, correct? And rule 89 sub rule 1A, this rule we have discussed, rule 89 sub rule 1A we have discussed that amount of wrong taxes paid can be taken as refund. क्या मुझे कोई पार्टिसिपेंट ये बता सकता है कि व्हाट इज द टाइम लिमिट, एंड दिस टाइम, व्हाट इज द टाइम लिमिट, कितना साल है टाइम लिमिट रिफंड का? एंड सेकेंड वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, दिस वुड बी स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम विच डेट? जो भी आप टाइम लिमिट बताओगे, इसका स्टार्टिंग कौन सी डेट से होगा? द स्टार्टिंग वुड बी फ्रॉम विच डेट? दिस इज ऑल्सो टू क्वेश्चन आई हैव आस्क्ड टू ऑल ऑफ यू। पहला क्वेश्चन मुझे आंसर कीजिए कि जो ये रिफंड है, इंट्रा स्टेट सप्लाई टैक्स रॉन्गफुली कलेक्टेड एंड पेड, इंट्रा को इंटर, इंटर को इंट्रा, तो रॉन्ग जो टैक्स पे किया उसका रिफंड में कितने टाइम में ले सकता हूं, और ये जो टाइम लिमिट है ये कहां से काउंट होगी? Make sure that we will do the revision, and entire chapter we will cover. Entire chapter we will cover. So, if you are not having the confidence on this chapter during the discussion, you will develop your concept and confidence both at the end half an hour, in which we will do the quick round of the question answer. मुझे आप एक तो टाइम लिमिट बता दीजिए, और दूसरा बता दीजिए कि ये जो टाइम लिमिट है कहां से स्टार्ट होगी? So are you there here? I am not receiving any comment since 1 hour. I am not receiving any comment since 1 hour. Last comment was at 7 o'clock and now we are at 8 o'clock. No comment till 1 hour. Still, please confirm that if you have any doubt, kindly ask. Otherwise, give the answer. What is the time limit to take the refund? One year, 6 month, 18 month, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year. कितना टाइम लिमिट है रिफंड का? कोई तो टाइम लिमिट होगा, राइट? एंड दिस टाइम लिमिट वुड बी काउंटेड फ्रॉम विच डेट? That is my two question. Requesting everyone to give the answer. Uh, please confirm hi, hello, because I'm not receiving any chat from you. So I'm not sure कि आप chat कर पा रहे नहीं कर पा रहे. Please say hi, hello. Please say hi only in the chat so that I would be able to understand my message is going to you and you are able to chat with me. Since 1 hour, I'm not receiving any comment. Yes, now I have received the answer from the Mansa. It's 2 year. Thank you. Thank you, Mansa. Now the 2 year would be counted from which date? Thank you, Mansa. Now the 2 year would be counted from which date? The tax wrong paid, that's CGST, SGST, or the tax correctly paid, IGST. ये 2 साल का टाइम पीरियड कहां से काउंट होगा? ठीक है विराज, थैंक यू. So the 2 year would be counted from the date of the correct tax paid. Your wrong tax paid might be it is more than already 2 year expired. So they are saying that 2 year you can take the refund from the payment of the correct taxes. You are paying the IGST now. You can take the refund within 2 year from this IGST का जब भी आपने पेमेंट किया तब से. Clarification in respect to section 77 that the term subsequently held. इस subsequently held का मतलब क्या? ये clarification उन्होंने दिया था कि subsequently held in the said section cover where the interstate supply or intrastate supply made by the taxpayer is either subsequently found by the taxpayer himself or by the officer. इन्होंने कहा कि ये जो subsequently held है ये दोनों सिचुएशन कवर करता है. कौन सी? अगर subsequently found by the taxpayer तब भी चलेगा और held by the officer तब भी चलेगा. For instance, scrutiny, scrutiny, assessment, audit, investigation, or adjudication, appellate, or any. Accordingly, the refund claim under the said section can be claimed by the taxpayer in both the above mentioned situation, provided the taxpayer pays the required amount of the tax in the correct year. ठीक है. Now, 78 and 79. 78 is talking about initiation of the recovery proceeding. Any amount payable by the taxable person in pursuance of an order passed under this act must be paid within a period of 3 months from the date of the service of the order. If a taxable person failed to do so, then recovery proceedings are initiated against him. Where the proper officer consider it expedient in the interest of the revenue for reason to be recorded in writing, require the said taxable person to make the payment for lesser than 3 months also. वो 3 महीने तक इंतजार नहीं करेंगे, वो कहेंगे कि आप पहले पे कर दीजिए डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द फैक्ट एंड सर्कमस्टांसेस ऑफ ईच केसेस. Section 79. If the payable is not paid within the time period of 3 months, recovery shall be initiated and various actions may be taken by the recovery officer for realization of the government dues. यहाँ पे कई सारी रिकवरी के मेथड करेक्ट लिखे गए We have to discuss one by one. Recovery can also be made from the distinct person as well. ठीक है, मान लो एक पैन है और उसके 5 जीएसटी नंबर है, किसी एक जीएसटी नंबर में अगर कोई लाइबिलिटी है तो दैट कैन बी रिकवर्ड फ्रॉम अनदर जीएसटी नंबर ऑफ द सेम पैन. सो इट कैन बी कलेक्टेड फ्रॉम द, इट कैन बी रिकवर फ्रॉम द अदर जीएसटी नंबर एज वेल. ठीक है. द ऑप्शन फॉर रिकवरी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट ड्यूज इंक्लूड डिडक्शन ऑफ मनी from any amount payable to such taxpayer. See, option of the recovery of the government dues include deduction of the money from any amount payable to such taxpayer, या detaining and selling of any goods, directing any other person from whom the money is due to such person. This is important, we'll discuss separate. अपना वो है heading है attaching the property etc. Mode of recovery, following mode. So there are various mode is being covered, we'll discuss one by one. Recovery by deduction from any money owed. The proper officer may deduct or may require any other specified officer to deduct the amount. कौन सा amount? Which is payable to such person referred to as defaulter. जो डिफॉल्टर को पे होना है वो अमाउंट को होल्ड कर ले, उस अमाउंट के साथ एडजस्ट कर ले. लेट्स से देयर इज अ डिमांड इन द सीजीएसटी. ठीक है. So CGST officer may direct to the SGST. Suppose इसको लगता है कि SGST में कोई इसका रिफंड है. Let's say there is a refund of SGST or there is any other amount which is payable to this taxpayer, this defaulter. Then the officer may deduct or may require any other specified officer to deduct the amount so payable, which may be under the control of the proper officer or such other specified officer. Specified officer means the officer of the central government or state government or the government of union territory or a local authority or a board or corporation or a company owned or controlled by the central government, state government. ये किसका मतलब है? स्पेसिफाइड ऑफिसर का मतलब है. नाउ सेकंड रिकवरी. पहली रिकवरी क्या थी? रिकवरी फ्रॉम द मनी ओन. मनी किसको ओन करते हैं? द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर में डिडक्ट और में रिक्वायर्ड टू डिडक्ट एनी अदर स्पेसिफाइड ऑफिसर अमाउंट सो पेबल. ठीक है. सेकंड है रिकवरी बाय सेल ऑफ द गुड्स अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर. तो क्या कर सकता है ऑफिसर? मे रिकवर और मे रिक्वायर एनी अदर स्पेसिफाइड ऑफिसर टू रिकवर द अमाउंट सो पेबल फ्रॉम द डिफॉल्टर बाय डिटेनिंग एंड सेलिंग एनी गुड्स. ऑफिसर रिकवर कैसे कर सकते हैं? कोई भी गुड्स को डिटेन करके और उसको सेल करके थ्रू द प्रोसेस ऑफ द ऑक्शन including e-auction belonging to such person which are under the control of the proper officer or such other specified officer. अगर उस ऑफिसर के अंडर में कंट्रोल में नहीं है तो कोई और अदर स्पेसिफाइड ऑफिसर. स्पेसिफाइड ऑफिसर का मतलब क्या है? ऑफिसर ऑफ द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, यूटी, लोकल अथॉरिटी और बोर्ड और कॉर्पोरेशन और ए कंपनी ओन्ड और कंट्रोल्ड fully or partly by the central government, state government, etc. The proper officer shall prepare an inventory and estimate the market value of the goods and proceed to sell only so much of the goods as may be required for recovering the amount payable along with the administrative expenditure incurred on the recovery process. मतलब जितना उसका ड्यू बनता है प्लस जितना उसका एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंडिचर है गवर्नमेंट का, उतना ही गुड्स सेल किया जाएगा. ठीक है. ऑफिसर शैल प्रिपेयर द इन्वेंटरी फर्स्ट and estimate the market value and proceed to sell only so much of the goods as may be required, where the defaulter pays the amount under recovery including any expenses incurred in the process of the recovery. Before the issuance of the notice for auction, the proper officer shall cancel the process of auction and release the goods. अगर डिफॉल्टर पहले ही पे कर देता है तो फिर वो ऑप्शन को कैंसिल कर सकते हैं. नाउ द गार्निशिप प्रोसीडिंग. रिकवरी फ्रॉम द थर्ड पर्सन. अब ये तीसरे आदमी से रिकवर कर रहे हैं, नॉट फ्रॉम दैट पर्सन जो डिफॉल्टर है. क्या कहता है? द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर में बाय नोटिस इन द प्रिस्क्राइब्ड मैनर इन राइटिंग रिक्वायर एनी अदर पर्सन फ्रॉम whom मनी इज ड्यू और मे बिकम ड्यू टू सच पर्सन और who hold or may subsequently hold the money or on account of the such person to pay the government, either forthwith upon the money becoming due or being held or within the time specified in the notice, not being before the money becoming due or is owed. So much of the money as is sufficient to pay the amount due from such person or the whole of the money and when it is equal to or less than the amount that amount. क्या मतलब हुआ इसका बात कर? Let's say Mr. A is defaulter. Mr. A is the defaulter and he is not making the payment. Now Mr. A is owning one property and that property has been rented to Mr. B. So B is requiring the monthly rental, requiring to pay the monthly rental to Mr. A. Or let's say A has sold the goods to Mr. C. So C liable to pay to Mr. A. So what they are saying, the officer require any other person so much of the money as it is sufficient to pay the amount due from the person or whole of the money when it is equal to or less than that amount. The proper officer may by notice in writing require any other person from whom money is due or may become due, who hold or may subsequently hold the money, or either forthwith upon the money becoming due, within such time not being before the money becoming due or is held, so much of the money as is sufficient to pay the amount due from such person, or the whole of the money when it is equal to or less than that amount. ठीक है. Every person to whom the notice is issued shall bound to comply. अब जब मिस्टर बी को या मिस्टर सी को नोटिस आ गया तो उन्हें कंप्लाई करना पड़ेगा. अगर ये नोटिस किसी पोस्ट ऑफिस को, बैंकिंग कंपनी को या इंश्योरेंस को जाता है तो उन्हें ना जरूरी नहीं है कि वो प्रोड्यूस करना पड़ेगा पासबुक, डिपॉजिट, पॉलिसी, एनी अदर डॉक्यूमेंट. ठीक है. They are not required to they are not required to produce this document. In case the person, अब जब नोटिस गया किसको, मिस्टर बी को, मिस्टर सी को, then if they fail to pay the amount, then it shall be deemed that to be a defaulter. Now A तो डिफॉल्टर था ही, अब डिफॉल्टर कौन बन गया, मिस्टर बी, एंड मिस्टर सी वुड ऑल्सो बी कंसिडर्ड एज डिफॉल्टर. Officer has the right to amend the notice, revoke the notice, or extend the time for making the payment. Any person making the payment. Now, if Mr. B or Mr. C made the payment, then it will be deemed that the person in the default A has made the payment. अगर B और C कुछ पेमेंट, कोई भी पेमेंट अगर करते हैं तो वो पेमेंट किसके अकाउंट का माना जाएगा, इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज मिस्टर ए का. मिस्टर ए हैज पेड द अमाउंट. देन फर्दर सच पेमेंट बीइंग क्रेडिटेड टू द गवर्नमेंट शैल बी डीम्ड टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूट द गुड एंड सफिशिएंट डिस्चार्ज ऑफ द लाइबिलिटी ऑफ सच पर्सन टू द पर्सन इन डिफॉल्ट. मतलब बी टू ए, मतलब सी टू ए. अगर बी और सी ने गवर्नमेंट को पे कर दिया बट उन्होंने ए तो पे नहीं किया, ए को तो पे नहीं किया, तो उन्होंने क्या बोला, सच पेमेंट बीइंग क्रेडिटेड टू द गवर्नमेंट व्हेन बी हैज मेड द पेमेंट टू द गवर्नमेंट, व्हेन सी हैज मेड द पेमेंट टू द गवर्नमेंट इंस्टेड ऑफ ए, then it shall be deemed to constitute the good and sufficient discharge of the liability by such person to the person in the default, to the extent of the amount specified in the receipt. Any person discharging any liability to the person in default after servicing on him the notice shall be personally liable. Any person discharging any liability to the person in default after servicing on him the notice shall be personally liable to the government to the extent of the liability discharge or to the extent of the liability of the person in default for tax, interest, penalty, whichever is lower. तो अगर B और C नोटिस के बाद भी A को पेमेंट करते हैं तो दे आर पर्सनली लाइबल फॉर द नोटिस टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ द लाइबिलिटी डिस्चार्ज, जितना भी उन्होंने पे किया है और जितने का नोटिस है, whichever is lower. Where a person to whom the notice is served प्रूव, हाँ यहां पे क्या है, बी और सी को नोटिस रिसीव हुआ फ्रॉम गवर्नमेंट, बट इफ दे प्रूव कि कोई भी अमाउंट ड्यू नहीं था which they need to make the payment to the A. The money demanded by government or any part thereof was not due to the person in default. A को amount दे, by B, by C, there is no money due to A, or they did not hold any money on account of the person in default at the time the notice was served on, nor is the money demanded or the part thereof likely to become due to the said person be held on account of such person. Nothing contained in this section shall be deemed to require the person to whom the notice has been served to pay to the government any such money or part thereof. Where the third person make the payment specified in the notice, the officer shall issue the certificate in the prescribed form to the third person, clearly indicating the details of liability so discharged. So that is garnishing provision has been completed. 79 subsection 1 clause C has been completed. Now we are moving to the clause D. Recovery by sale of movable / immovable property. The proper officer may, in accordance with the rules to be made in this behalf, distrain any movable or immovable property belonging to or under the control of such person and detain the same until the amount payable is paid. क्या कर सकता है ऑफिसर? ऑफिसर distrain any movable or immovable property belonging to or under the control of such person and detain the same until the amount payable is paid, and in case any part of the said amount payable or the cost of the distress or keeping the property remain unpaid, कितना दिन? 30 days after such distress may cause the said property to be sold. तो वो क्या कर सकते हैं? ऑक्शन या ई ऑक्शन के माध्यम से उस प्रॉपर्टी को सेल करके वो रिकवर कर सकते हैं. क्या क्या रिकवर कर सकते हैं? कॉस्ट ऑफ डिस्ट्रेस remain unpaid of the LOB liability, and with the proceed of such sale may satisfy the amount payable and the cost including cost of sale remaining unpaid and shall render the surplus if any to that defaulter. क्लियर? यहां तक क्लियर है ना? 2 year from the relevant date. Absolutely correct. And what is the relevant date? 89 1A के अकॉर्डिंग relevant date क्या बन गई सर? relevant date बन गई the date of the correct payment of the taxes. Now, the proper officer shall prepare the list of movable and immovable property belonging to the defaulter, estimate their value as per the market value, and issue the order of attachment or distraint and a notice of the sale prohibiting any transaction with regard to such movable and immovable property as may be required for recovering the amount due. In case of the attachment or distraint of immovable property, order shall be affixed on the property till the confirmation of sale. And movable property है तो shall seize the property and take it in custody. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between seizure and confiscation? Can anybody tell me what is the difference between seizure and confiscation of the goods? We have already discussed in the last class. Difference between seizure and confiscation of the goods. What is the difference between seizure and confiscation of the goods? Waiting for your reply. Requesting everyone. What is the difference between seizure and Kindly give the answer. Difference between seizure and confiscation of the goods. If you are not having the idea, not able to recall, kindly respond that's a no idea, not able to recall. मुझे मालूम तो चले जो मैं पूछ रहा हूं आप तक जा भी रहा है नहीं. Is it communicating to you or not? I should be clarified. So requesting that either respond, either give the answer, or if not knowing, then kindly give the according to no idea, not clear, not remember, etc. Please complete in this sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You need to write the penalty percentages 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. Like एक में कितना, दो में कितना, तीन में कितना. Section 73 versus Section 74. How much is the penalty percentage if the note before a notice ready to make the payment of the tax interest? How much is the penalty after notice? How much is the penalty within 30 days? Let's say. ठीक है, after order within 30 days and after 30 days. Let's say 7 we can write here and we can write here 8. No problem, no problem. Not able to recall, no problem. But now you can give the answer of this question. You all can give the answer to this question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to tell me the quantum of the penalty only. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, no penalty, something like that. What is the penalty between 73, 74? 3, I have divided in 4 parts. Before SCN, after SCN within 30 days, after order within 30 days, or after order beyond 30 days. Now tell me what is the penalty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is a very simple question which I have asked before. First, Kirti has given the right answer for 1, 2, 3. Kirti has given the right answer for 1, 2, 3. What about the rest participant? In this situation, I like to understand from each one of you that what is the penalty percentage in different situations. Total situations are 8. Kindly tell me what is the penalty percentage. Great, Kirti. What about 7 and 8? What about 7 and 8? What about 7 and 8? So this is no penalty. This is no penalty. This is 10% or 10,000, whichever is higher. सेम, ठीक है। हियर 15%, 25%, 50% एंड 100%. Correct. Thank you so much. Now let's go back to the discussion. Stamp duty, any other tax, fee payable on transfer of the property shall be paid by the transferee to the government. ठीक है. Any property in a debt not secured by the negotiable instrument, any property in a debt not secured by negotiable instrument, a share in corporation or other movable property not in the possession of the defaulter, except for the property deposited in the custody of any court, shall be attached in the manner provided in the Rule 151. What is the Rule 151? Again, we will discuss. Where any claim is preferred, any objection is raised with regard to the attachment, distraint of the property by the person claiming that he had some interest or in possession of the property in the question, proper officer shall investigate the same and postpone the sale till such time. अगर कोई दूसरा पर्सन ऑब्जेक्ट करता है कि नहीं उसका भी इंटरेस्ट है तो वो क्या करेंगे, डेफर कर देंगे फॉर द टाइम बी. इफ द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर फाइंड द मेरिट इन हिज क्लेम, objections upon investigation, proper officer will release the property fully or partly, otherwise the proper officer will reject the claim. किसके क्लेम की बात हो रही है? Where any claim is preferred, any objection is raised with regard to the attachment or distraint of the property by a person, he is claiming, he is not the defaulter, is any person claiming that he has some interest or possession of the property, where the defaulter pay the amount under recovery, including any expenditure incurred on the process of the recovery. Obviously, they will cancel the process of auction. उनको क्या करना रखे? Now, there is an amendment. Amount so realized from the sale of goods or conveyance or movable or immovable property, then the for the recovery of the due from the defaulter or for recovery of the penalty under 129 subsection 3 shall be first a portion against the administrative cost of the recovery process. पहला किसको मिलेगा? एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कॉस्ट. नेक्स्ट किसको मिलेगा? पेनल्टी टेबल अंडर 129(3). नेक्स्ट, a portion appropriated against any other amount due from the defaulter under CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, etc. The balance, if any, shall be credited to the electronic cash ledger to the owner of that goods or conveyance, as the case may be. In case the person is registered under the GST and where the said person is not required to be registered, the said amount shall be credited to the bank account of the person concerned. क्लियर हो गया? सीक्वेंस क्या हुआ? पहला एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंडिचर, दूसरा 129(3) की पेनल्टी, तीसरा बाकी कोई भी टैक्सेस अगर कोई पेबल है, इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी वो पे होगा, और चौथा अगर बैलेंस बच जाता है तो उसको या तो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैश लेजर में ऐड कर दिया जाएगा. इफ द पर्सन इज रजिस्टर्ड, इफ द पर्सन इज नॉट रजिस्टर्ड, देन क्या होगा? देन इट विल बी क्रेडिटेड इन द बैंक अकाउंट. वेयर इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल टू द बैलेंस ऑफ द सेल प्रोसीड एज पर द क्लॉज डी, ठीक है, then as per the clause D of the sub rule 1, to the person concerned within a period of 6 months from the date of the sale of such goods, then proper officer shall be deposited with the fund. अगर it is not possible to the balance of the sales proceed as per the clause D of the sub rule 1, कौन सा clause D sub rule 1? अगर ये कैश लेजर में डिपॉजिट नहीं हो पाता तो ये क्या करेंगे? ये डिपॉजिट कर देंगे कंज्यूमर वेलफेयर फंड में. वेयर द प्रॉपर्टी टू बी सोल्ड इज ए नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट or share in corporation, proper officer may, instead of selling it by public auction, sell such instrument or share through the broker, and the said broker shall deposit in the government so much of the proceed reduced by his commission as may be required for discharge of the amount under recovery, and pay the amount remaining to the owner of that instrument. Any officer or other person who has the duty to perform in connection with such shall will not acquire any interest in the property sold. तो वो है ना, जो ऑफिसर जो सेल कर रहे हैं या जो पर्सन सेल कर रहा है उसमें कोई ना परचेज नहीं करेगा, वो कोई पार्ट खरीदेगा नहीं. नो सच सेल विल टेक प्लेस ऑन संडे और अदर पब्लिक जनरल हॉलिडे रिकॉग्नाइज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. प्रॉपर ऑफिसर may seek the assistance from the police station. Now, recovery as a arrear of loans. The proper officer may prepare a certificate in the prescribed form signed by him specifying the amount due and send it to the collector of the district in which such person owes any property or reside or carries in on his business, or to any officer authorized by the government, and said collector or the said officer on the said receipt of said certificate shall proceed to recover as if it was a arrear of the land recovery. तो मतलब जो जीएसटी का ऑफिसर है वो एक सर्टिफिकेट बना के टोटल अमाउंट कितना बनता है वो दे देगा किनको, कलेक्टर को, एंड कलेक्टर विल रिकवर द अमाउंट. अगेन रिकवरी विल बी इक्विवेलेंट टू द फाइन एज इम्पोज्ड बाय द मजिस्ट्रेट. तो पहले हमने बात की recovery would be like a land revenue. अब it will be treated as a fine which is being imposed by the magistrate. तो इसके ऊपर क्या प्रोविजन लग जाएगा? सीआरपीसी. Officer may file an application to the appropriate magistrate in the prescribed form to recover from the person concerned the amount specified, and such magistrate shall proceed to recover. Then through the decree. So कितने तरह के मोड है जीएसटी की रिकवरी करने के? कितने डिफरेंट तरह के मोड है. रिकवरी थ्रू एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ द डिक्री. तो वेयर एनी अमाउंट इज पेबल टू द डिफॉल्टर इन एग्जीक्यूशन ऑफ द decree of a civil court for the payment of the money or for sale in the enforcement of the mortgage or charge, officer shall send a request to the said court, and court shall object, subject to the provision of the CRPC, Code of Civil Procedure, sorry, not criminal procedure, execute the attached decree and credit the net proceed for settlement of the amount recoverable. Recovery through surety, जो भी surety दी है, that will be that from that they can recover. Recovery from the company in liquidation, where the company is under the liquidation as specified in section 88, the commissioner shall notify the liquidator for the recovery of any amount representing the tax, interest, penalty, or any other amount due under the act in the prescribed form. Okay. Now other provision governing recovery of tax, where the terms of any bond or other instrument executed under this act or any rules or regulation made thereunder provide that any amount due under such instrument may be recovered in the manner laid down in subsection 1, जो हमने अभी पढ़ा था. Amount may without prejudice to any other mode of recovery be recovered in accordance with the provision of 79 subsection 2, where any amount of the tax, interest, penalty is payable by a person to the government under any of the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder which remain unpaid, the proper officer of the SGST, UTGST during the course of recovery may recover the amount from the said person as if it is a arrear of CG. तो CGST वाला रिकवरी SGST वाला ऑफिसर भी कर सकता है और ये माना जाएगा कि वो रिकवरी SGST की ही कर रहा है. ठीक है. Where any amount recovered is less, then क्या होगा? Due to the central government, state government, it will be divided in ratio, in proportion to the amount recovered. What is the changes? Clarification on the legal provision of the voluntary payment of the tax in inspection, search, investigation. During the course of search, inspection, investigation, sometime the taxpayer opt for deposit of their partial or full GST liability arising out of the issue pointed out by the department during the search, seizure, investigation. Instances have been noticed where some of the taxpayer, after voluntarily depositing the liability, have alleged that officer has used the force and coercion by the officer for making the recovery. Consequently, the legal position of the voluntary payment of the tax has been clarified for ensuring the correct application of the law and for protecting the interest of the taxpayer. Under the CGST Act, taxpayer have an option to make the voluntary payment. Such voluntary payment before SCN is permitted in 73(5) and 74(5). We have discussed. This helps the taxpayer in discharging their admitted liability, self-ascertained or as ascertained by the tax officer without having to bear the burden of interest. A recovery of the tax not paid or short paid can be made under the provision of Section 79 only after following the due legal process and subsequent confirmation of the demand by issuing of adjudication order. Therefore, there may not arise any situation where recovery of the tax dues has to be made by the tax officer from the taxpayer during the course of search inspection. मैं रिपीट करता हूं, ये बात ध्यान रखिएगा. Therefore, there may not arise any situation where recovery due has to be made by the tax officer from the taxpayer during the course of search, inspection, etc. However, the law does not bar the taxpayer for voluntarily making the payment, either before or after. This was the instruction number 1, 22, 23, 25th May 2022. Payment of the tax in installment. Section 80 talk about that considering various business aspect. एक सेकंड रुकिएगा. Provision of section 80, payment of the tax in installment. Read with rule 158. A taxable person seeking extension of time. सो प्लीज नोट कि सेल्फ असेस्ड अगर कोई टैक्स है उसका इंस्टॉलमेंट परमिटेड नहीं है. सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स का इंस्टॉलमेंट परमिटेड नहीं है. ए टैक्सेबल पर्सन सीकिंग एक्सटेंशन ऑफ टाइम फॉर द पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्सेज और एनी अमाउंट ड्यू फॉर अलाउिंग द पेमेंट ऑफ सच टैक्स इन इंस्टॉलमेंट, उन्हें क्या करना पड़ेगा? एक एप्लीकेशन फाइल करनी पड़ेगी इन द प्रिस्क्राइब्ड फॉर्म. कमिश्नर शैल कॉल फॉर ए रिपोर्ट फ्रॉम द जुरिस्डिक्शनल ऑफिसर about the financial ability of the taxable person. Commissioner may, upon consideration of the same for reason to be recorded in writing, extend the time for payment or allow payment of tax due under this act or allow payment of any amount due under this act other than द सेल्फ असेस्ड लाइबिलिटी इन एनी रिटर्न. अगर किसी रिटर्न में वो लाइबिलिटी डिस्क्लोज कर चुका है तो उसका इंस्टॉलमेंट पॉसिबल नहीं है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट यस पॉसिबल है इन मंथली इंस्टॉलमेंट. मैक्सिमम कितना हुआ इंस्टॉलमेंट? 24, सब्जेक्ट टू इंटरेस्ट एंड सब्जेक्ट टू अदर कंडीशन एज मे बी प्रिस्क्राइब. अगर वो डिफॉल्ट करता है, इफ देयर इज ए डिफॉल्ट इन पेमेंट ऑफ एनी वन इंस्टॉलमेंट, then the whole outstanding balance will be payable immediately without any further notice being served on the person be liable for recovery. Facility of the payment in installment not allowed in certain cases. किस केस में अलाउड नहीं है? Taxable person has already defaulted on the payment of any amount under CGST, SGST, UTGST for which a recovery process is on. Taxable person has not been allowed to make the payment in installment in the preceding financial year under this act. और अमाउंट फॉर इंस्टॉलमेंट फैसिलिटी इज सॉट इज लेस देन 25,000. अगर 25,000 से कम है तो ये 3 सिचुएशन ऐसी है जहां पर इंस्टॉलमेंट विल नॉट बी अलाउड. ट्रांसफर ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी टू बी वॉइड इन सर्टेन केसेज. ये क्या है? वेयर ए पर्सन आफ्टर एनी अमाउंट हैज बिकमिंग ड्यू फ्रॉम हिम क्रिएट ए चार्ज और पार्ट विद द प्रॉपर्टी बिलोंगिंग टू हिम और इन हिज पोजीशन बाय वे ऑफ द सेल, मॉर्गेज, एक्सचेंज or any other mode of transfer whatsoever of any of his property in favor of any other person with the intention of defrauding the government revenues, such charge or transfer shall be void as against any claim in respect of any tax or other sum payable by the said person. However, such charge or transfer shall not be void if it is made for adequate consideration in good faith and without notice of the precedence of the such proceeding. ठीक है. Tax to be first charged on the property, notwithstanding anything contained, any law for the time being in force in IBC, insolvency and bankruptcy courts, any amount payable by the taxable person or any other person on account of the tax interest penalty which is liable to pay to the government shall be the first charge on the property. So जो भी tax due है वो पहला charge होगा property का. So there is a sequence on मतलब कि इंसॉल्वेंसी के केस में कैसे पेमेंट होगा. सो इट इज द फर्स्ट चार्ज. Provisional attachment, section 83. I have discussed one thing that 122(1)(a) has been inserted in section 83 so that to recover the tax interest penalty, property of mastermind can be attached. Provisional attachment means, this word provisional means it is valid for 1 year only. This attachment is valid for 1 year only, where after the initiation of any proceeding under chapter 12 Chapter 14, Chapter 15. The commissioner is of the opinion that for the purpose of protecting the government का revenue, it is necessary he may order in writing attach provisionally any property including bank. किस किस का? Taxable person का या फिर any person specified in 122 1A. And after the expiry of the 1 year, it will be ceased to be linked. It will be ceased to have the effect after the expiry of the 1 year. Now the related provision contained in CGST rule are as follows. Provisional attachment of the property where the commissioner decide to attach any property including bank account in accordance with the aforesaid provision, he shall pass an order to the effect mentioning the details of the property which is being attached. ठीक है. The commissioner shall send a copy of the order of the attachment to the concerned revenue authority or the transport authority or any other authority to place encumbrance on the said movable or immovable property which shall be removed only on the written instruction from the commissioner to that effect. ठीक है. Copy of the order of the provisional attachment including bank shall also be sent to the person whose property is being attached. तो उस person को भी जाएगा जिसकी property attach हो रही है. Where the property attached is of the perishable nature, then the taxpayer, if the taxable person pay the amount equivalent to the market value of the market price of the property or amount that is become payable, whichever is lower, then such property shall be released. However, when the taxable person fail to pay the amount referred above in respect of the said property of the perishable or hazardous nature, commissioner may dispose of. Any person whose property is attached may require at any time file an objection to the effect that the property attached was or no or is not liable to be attached, and the commissioner may, after affording an opportunity of being heard, release the said property. The commissioner may, upon being satisfied that the property was or is no longer liable to be attached, release this property by issuing the order. So this is the process for attachment of the property. Now, attachment of the debt. A debt not secured by the negotiable instrument, a shares in corporation or other movable property not in the possession of the defaulter except for property deposited or in the custody of any court shall be attached by the written order. कैसे अटैच होगा? रिटर्न ऑर्डर से. इन द केस ऑफ द डेट, द क्रेडिटर, अगर कोई डेट है, अगर कोई शेयर्स है या अदर इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, तो कैसे अटैच होगा? द क्रेडिटर फ्रॉम रिकवरिंग द डेट एंड द डेटर फ्रॉम मेकिंग द पेमेंट देयर ऑफ अंटिल द रिसिट ऑफ फर्दर ऑर्डर फ्रॉम द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर. ठीक है, तो वो एक ऑर्डर दे देंगे कि आप फर्दर इसमें रिकवर नहीं करेंगे. इन केस ऑफ द शेयर्स, द पर्सन इन हुज नेम द शेयर्स में बी स्टैंडिंग फ्रॉम ट्रांसफरिंग द सेम और रिसीविंग एनी डिविडेंड देयरऑफ. तो मतलब यहाँ पे वो रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगा सकते हैं कि यू कैन नॉट ट्रांसफर टू एनी अदर पर्सन. अगर कोई एनी अदर मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी है, द पर्सन इन पोजेशन फ्रॉम गिविंग इट टू द डिफॉल्टर, तो ये कह देंगे कि भाई अब ये प्रॉपर्टी उसको मत देना जिसका डिफॉल्ट है. Now, a copy of the such order shall be affixed on the some conspicuous part of the office of the proper officer, and another copy shall be sent in case of the debt to the debtors, and in case of the shares to the registered address of the corporation, and in case of the other movable property the जो person purchase करता है. A debtor prohibited hereunder may pay the amount of his debt to the proper officer, and such payment shall be deemed to be the defaulter. सेम वही वाली बात जो हमने ABC का एग्जांपल लेके हमने डिस्कस किया था. ठीक है. Attachment of property in custody of the court or public officer, where the property to be attached is in the custody of the court or public officer, the proper officer shall send the order of attachment to such court, requesting that such property and any interest or dividend becoming payable may be held till the recovery of the amount payable. ठीक है. Attachment of the interest in the partnership, where the property is to be attached consists of an interest of the defaulter being a partner in the partnership firm, in the partnership property. The officer may make an order charging the shares of the such partner in the partnership property and profit with payment of amount due under the certificate, and may by the same or consequent order appoint a receiver of the shares of such partners in the profit, whatever already declared or accruing, and of any other money which may become due to him in respect to the partnership or direct account, and inquiry may make an order for the sale of such interest or such other order as the circumstances of the case may require. The other partner shall be at the liberty at any time to redeem the interest charged, or in the case of the sale being directed to purchase the same. Continuation and validation of certain recovery proceeding. थोड़ा theoretical काफी ज्यादा है, but to the extent possible I'm trying to give the example, but जहां पे पूरा थ्योरी है कुछ भी एग्जांपल नहीं दे सकता. So you have to read that provisions. Correct. Where any notice of the demand. So अब एक पेज हो रहा है एंड उसके बाद हम लोग अपना रिवीजन स्टार्ट करेंगे. लास्ट 15-20 मिनट जो भी है हमारे पास में. Where any notice of the demand in respect of any tax, penalty, interest, or any other amount payable under this act, government dues, is served upon any taxable person or any other person, and any appeal or revision application is filed or any other proceeding is initiated in respect of such government dues, then where such government dues are enhanced in such appeal, revision or other proceeding, the commissioner shall serve upon the taxable person or any other person another notice of the demand, क्योंकि यहाँ पे डिमांड इंक्रीज हो गई है, in respect of the amount by which such government dues are enhanced, and any recovery proceeding in relation to such government dues are covered by the notice of the demand served upon him before the disposal of such appeal. Revision or other proceeding may, without the service of any fresh notice of the demand, be continued from the stage at which such proceeding stood immediately before such disposal. एक और वापस पढ़ लेते हैं. When government dues are enhanced, commissioner shall serve upon the taxable person another notice of the demand by which such government dues are enhanced, and any recovery proceeding in relation to such government dues as are covered by the notice of the demand served upon him before the disposal. So the originally जो recovery notice था उसमें ये cover हो जाएगा. ठीक है. विदाउट द सर्विस ऑफ एनी फ्रेश नोटिस ऑफ द डिमांड. तो यहाँ पे वापस उसकी रिकवरी के लिए कोई वापस फ्रेश डिमांड का नोटिस इश्यू नहीं करना. भी कंटिन्यू, वो कंटिन्यू रहेगा फ्रॉम द स्टेज एट विच प्रोसीडिंग स्टूड इमीडिएटली बिफोर द डिस्पोजल ऑफ दिस अपील. वेयर सच गवर्नमेंट ड्यूज आर रिड्यूस. तो पहले तो हम इंक्रीज की बात कर रहे थे, अब हम रिड्यूस की बात कर रहे हैं. इन सच अपील रिविजन, तो इट शैल नॉट बी नेसेसरी टू सर्व अपॉन द टैक्सेबल पर्सन द फ्रेश नोटिस ऑफ द डिमांड. ऊपर हमने क्या पढ़ा था, उसे एक वापस नोटिस ऑफ द डिमांड देना पड़ेगा एडिशनल कंपोनेंट का. यहां पे तो रिड्यूस हो रहा है, तो ही इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू सर्व एनी फ्रेश नोटिस. कमिश्नर शैल गिव इंटीमेशन ऑफ सच रिडक्शन एंड द अप्रोप्रिएट अथॉरिटी विद whom recovery is pending. ठीक है. एनी रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग इनिशिएटेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द डिमांड सर्व प्रायर टू द डिस्पोजल, मतलब हायर डिमांड जो रिकवरी इनिशिएट करने के लिए की गई है, revision or such other proceeding may be continue in relation to the amount so reduced from the stage at which such proceeding stood immediately before such disposal. तो ऐसा नहीं कि वो जो इंक्रीज या डिक्रीज हुआ तो वापस पूरा का पूरा प्रोसेस रिपीट करना, नहीं. जितनी अपील के पहले जहां पर थी वो सेम कंटिन्यू रहेगी. दैट इज द सेक्शन. व्हाट इज द लैंग्वेज ऑफ सेक्शन? लेट्स रीड द लैंग्वेज वंस अगेन. द कंटिन्यूएशन एंड वैलिडेशन ऑफ सर्टेन रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग. अगर कोई अपील के कारण डिवीजन इंक्रीज होता है, डिक्रीज होता है, तो जो पीछे वाली पोजीशन थी वो कंटिन्यू रहेगी. द प्रोसीडिंग कंटिन्यू अंडर आईबीसी कवर्ड अंडर द टर्म अदर प्रोसीडिंग इन सेक्शन 84. द वर्ड अदर प्रोसीडिंग इज नॉट डिफाइंड इन द सीजीएसटी एक्ट. कहां पे लिखा हुआ अदर प्रोसीडिंग? Where any notice of the demand in respect of any tax, interest, penalty, or any other payment is served upon the taxable person or any other person on any appeal, other proceeding, or is filed, or any other proceeding is initiated in respect of such government dues. Any other proceeding is initiated against such government dues. यहाँ पे क्या कह रहा है? The word other proceeding is not defined. It is to be mentioned that the adjudicating authority, appellate authority under IBC are quasi-judicial authorities constituted to deal with the civil dispute pertaining to the insolvency and bankruptcy. For instance, under IBC, NCLT, National Communal Law Tribunal, serve as an adjudicating authority for insolvency proceeding which are initiated on application from any stakeholder of the entity like the firm, creditor, debtor, etc., and pass an order approving the resolution plan. As the proceeding conducted under IBC also adjudicate the government dues pending under CGST or under existing law against the corporate debtor, same appear to be recovered under the term other proceeding in section 84. So this is all about circular 187 has clarified this part. Now let's start the quick revision. Let's take a break of only 1 minute. Let's take a break of only 1 minute and then we will start. Last 10 minutes is there. We will start the revision. So let me ask the one question. आप मुझे reply कीजिए तब तक. Where we have discussed, please tell me the concept discussion provision section number F. The order can be issued within 1 year from the notice and there is no time limit for the notice. No time limit for the notice. Where we have discussed this. No time limit for notice, but yes, order has to be issued within 1 year from notice. ये प्रोविजन हमने कहां डिस्कस किया था? This please answer. क्या बात है. Can you tell me the concept? Section is correct, Prerna. Section is correct. You have given the right section 76. Can you tell me the concept where? Concept मतलब थोड़ा सा कब applicable है concept? I just like to understand the concept. That's it. Where tax has been collected but not paid to the government. Correct. Na? So we have discussed the provisional attachment of the property. The provisional attachment is valid for how many? For what period? Provisional attachment cease to be expired after a period of cease to be expired after a period of provisional attachment section 83 cease to be expired after a period of right answer is 1 year. The right answer is 1 year. Whether recovery in there is a demand from one GST number, can the amount be recovered from another GST number of that same PAN? Can the amount be recovered from another GST number of the same PAN? क्या वो अमाउंट रिकवर हो सकता है दूसरे जीएसटी नंबर से दूसरी पैन में अलॉटेड है डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन? द आंसर इज यस, इट इज पॉसिबल। अगला क्वेश्चन क्या है कि अगर कोई अमाउंट पेबल है कोई भी ऑर्डर के कारण या कोई भी ऑर्डर जो भी पास किया उसके कारण, तो कितने टाइम पीरियड में अगर पेमेंट नहीं किया जाता है, इफ द पेमेंट इज नॉट मेड विद इन ए पीरियड ऑफ सच, विद इन ए पीरियड ऑफ दिस मंथ, देन द अमाउंट, देन रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग कैन बी स्टार्टेड। भाई कितने टाइम पीरियड तक अगर पेमेंट नहीं हो तो रिकवरी प्रोसीडिंग स्टार्ट हो सकती है? द आंसर इज 3 month। आंसर इज 3 month। देन वी हैव डिस्कस्ड वन सेक्शन 77, जहां पे हमने देखा कि इंटरस्टेट सप्लाई इंटर या इंटर को इंट्रा ट्रेड करते हुए पे कर दिया, रॉन्ग टैक्स करेक्ट टैक्स पे कर दिया। लेट मी रिपीट, if interstate supply has been considered as intra and you have paid the CGST SGST, but subsequently held that it is inter, तो वहां पे सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड का मतलब क्या? इट इज बीइंग आइडेंटिफाइड बाय द टैक्स ऑफिसर, और सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड मतलब आइडेंटिफाइड बाय द टैक्स पेयर हिमसेल्फ, और बोथ। आई एम सेइंग इन द सेक्शन 77 देयर इज अ टर्म सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड। तो सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड का मीनिंग का मतलब क्या है? इट इज सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड बाय द टैक्स ऑफिसर, इट इज सब्सिक्वेंटली हेल्ड बाय द टैक्स पेयर, और बाय बोथ, और इट कवर्ड बोथ। Answer is both. Answer is both. Now we have discussed that as per the direction of the court, order has to be issued within how many years, within how many period? अगर कोई कोर्ट का डायरेक्शन मिलता है तो टैक्स ऑफिसर को वो ऑर्डर इश्यू करना पड़ता है कितने टाइम पीरियड के अंदर में? इफ इट इज ए डायरेक्शन ऑफ द कोर्ट, देन द ऑर्डर हैज टू बी इश्यूड विद इन हाउ मेनी पीरियड? अगर कोर्ट की डायरेक्शन के कारण, सो ऑर्डर इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी इशूड एज पर द डायरेक्शन ऑफ अपीलेट अथॉरिटी, हो सकता है ट्रिब्यूनल, हो सकता है कोर्ट, हो सकता है, देन कितने टाइम पीरियड के अंदर अंदर वो ऑर्डर इश्यू होना चाहिए फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ सच डायरेक्शन? द आंसर इज एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट। आंसर इज 2 years। आंसर इज 2 years। कैन यू टेल मी व्हाट इज द सेल्फ असेस्ड टैक्स? Is it the self-assessed tax? We have discussed that self-assessed tax includes something. With respect to return, we have discussed self-assessed tax includes something. What was that? We have discussed that self-assessed tax include. What was that? The answer is difference between the GSTR1 liability reported and liability paid. If the liability paid is lesser than the liability reported, then it is self-assessed tax liability. Kindly tell me whether for recovery of for self-assessed tax liability, whether officer is required to send any notice, then order, whether office is required to send the notice order and then start recovery, or it can be directly start recovery? This is the last question कि सेल्फ असेस टैक्स लाइबिलिटी की रिकवरी डायरेक्टली हो सकती है या दे हैव टू गिव द नोटिस? क्या सेल्फ असेस टैक्स लाइबिलिटी की रिकवरी डायरेक्टली हो सकती है या दे हैव टू गिव द नोटिस? Whether self-assessed tax liability can be recovered directly or they have to send any notice. The answer is no. It can be recovered directly. Last question for the day. Last question for the day कि डबल जियोपार्डी का एक कॉन्सेप्ट हमने डिस्कशन किया था. डबल जियोपार्डी का एक कॉन्सेप्ट हमने डिस्कशन किया था. व्हाट वाज दैट कॉन्सेप्ट? डबल जियोपार्डी मींस मतलब वो एक कॉन्सेप्ट डिस्कशन किया था डबल जियोपार्डी का. व्हाट वाज दैट कॉन्सेप्ट? We have discussed one concept of double jeopardy. What was that concept? We have discussed one concept of double jeopardy. What was that concept? And this is the last question. We have discussed one concept of double jeopardy. What was that concept? What was the concept of double jeopardy? It means if the proceeding has been initiated in 73, 74, no other penalty can be imposed on the same fact. Correct? मतलब एक ही फैक्ट के लिए आप 73, 74 के साथ साथ आप किसी दूसरे सेक्शन की पेनल्टी नहीं लगा सकते. So by this we have completed our today chapter. So thank you very much. Good night to all of you. And we'll meet after in the practical case study problem. So now my next lecture is allotted in the next month. I will do the practical case study. There will be 3 classes probably, and then we will do the statutory amendment. So that is my allotted class. So we'll meet after 1 month approx. So goodbye to all of you, and Ashok sir, आप इस क्लास को कंप्लीट कर सकते हैं.